Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men. We will graduate players. And we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
Very thankful to 12, man. They've won us games.
Other schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
Our skill set worked great together. Like, he was more speed and I was more power, and then we put together, it was like thunder and lightning, you know.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
All right, OB, I want you to detect the lie, okay?
Okay.
Coach Elko, there's no lie, by the way, but if you tell me where he's wrong, because I don't think he's wrong at all. From day one that I got here, I promised nothing more than the fact that I'm going to roll up my sleeves and go to work every single day to make this program the best program it can be.
Okay.
Any lie there?
No, I think he's done
exactly that.
We've talked about it often.
Yeah.
He has done everything in the off season, short of convincing a couple of receivers to come. Not that he didn't try.
No.
But yeah, he's done everything. Every move he's made in the off season has been positive, in my opinion.
He gives off the vibe that he rolls up his sleeves.
That he's just going to work.
So we got to hang out with Coach Elko for a few minutes yesterday at the Legends Sports Center, or what do you call it? Legends Event Center?
Yeah,
in Midtown. It's a really cool place. I don't. Have you been there before?
Last year for Coach's Night.
Okay.
It was the first time I'd been there. I was really blown away by how nice that venue is.
That whole area, Midtown, I mean, they're building a lot out there, too.
They're doing a lot of great things over
I don't know what else they're building, though. I saw that I know there's baseball fields there. There's obviously big shots. There's a park, but I see them constructing something else. I'm not sure what else they're doing out there, but it's a cool area. But, yeah, Coach Elko shows up yesterday and holds court with us in the media, then talks to the group, and TexAgs was there for all of it. Look, everything he says, so far he's done, right? And there's no gimmick. In fact, yesterday, one of the comments he made is, I just want to coach football.
Yeah.
I just want to coach football. And at some point this week, I do want to go over roster management in 2024 because it's different, OB, in my opinion, what I've seen over the last few months, and especially for Coach Elko taking over a program. It's different from what we saw in 21 to 22 to 20. Like, I feel like it is now officially an NFL model when it comes to roster management.
Yeah, except it's more difficult because the NFL, at least you can sign guys in contracts and you have them.
Yep.
You know who you have, but in college a guy can get his feelings hurt because he's told he's not playing well or because he got demoted or whatever reason. And decide, well, I'm just leaving. So it's an even more difficult managing a college roster now.
Yeah,
and you have more of them.
Well,
you have twice as many guys.
And twice as many guys and twice as many agents, right? Like, because everybody's
right. You got to deal with that. You might have an agent that's telling a guy, hey, you need to go here. There's so many people inside the kids' ears now. And
who did I see signed a deal? I think it was one of the quarterbacks. It was Sam Hartman. Somebody signed a deal for it was actually a really big signing bonus, but his yearly salary was like $225,000. By the way, great money. But
I'd take it.
Twice, right? Yeah. I'd take half of it. But I think he probably was making that in college. I don't know, because quarterbacks for a Division I team, a Power 5 program, I don't know what the salary numbers are, but I feel like it's probably pretty good.
Well, we heard Ewers got $1 million to go to Ohio State.
Right.
And I'm sure he didn't take a pay cut to go to Texas.
You would think, right?
By the way, speaking of Texas,
we're on those tweets.
I saw those tweets that they're upset because we didn't say that we didn't include Big 12 players in the list of SEC players.
Yeah. So that gentleman, he's actually a really nice guy. He tweets at us a lot. He watches the show.
Maybe, but just get
Hey, other SEC shows are talking about Texas and the SEC. We had 11.
But they weren't SEC.
They weren't in the SEC. Yeah, I mean, you can't ignore us next year.
We're not trying to ignore you.
No, there's no conspiracy.
There's just trying to tell the truth. You know, I mean,
I didn't even think about Texas.
Well, I saw that somebody, the NFL released their lists of
most drafted.
Michigan
won.
The SEC led but the SEC had the most guys,
yep.
And they didn't include the Texas and Oklahoma guys.
No,
because you were in the Big 12,
brother.
It was intramural.
Yeah, and look, that's not taken away from a brilliant season that they had.
I'm sorry, I kind of hijacked.
No, but I don't mind going there.
To bring that up I just saw that and I was thinking, how bad do you have to? How much of an attention?
Why aren't you talking about
monger do you have that someone mentioned the teams, the guys drafted out of the conference that you don't play in,
right?
And you want credit for it when you absolutely played in the Big 12.
But the other shows,
look at me.
The other shows are including us.
Well,
they're not my boss, bro.
Yeah. Well, plus they're still they're still wrong. Yeah. The other school shows are wrong because who was the Big 12 champion in football last year?
Last time I checked, Texas.
Well, if they were in the SEC, how can they win the Big 12?
Oh, that's right. Oh, I forgot about that. Look,
dipstick.
Look, I don't like Texas. Okay? I don't go out of my way to trash them, but I don't like them. I want them to lose every game 50-0 in every sport. That's just how it is. But I never go out of my way to not report on something. But if it's not part of if it's not relevant to the topic that we're having about the SEC in 2023/4 draft season, then, sorry, bro.
Just what are you getting your... I saw that. I just kind of, lived over there.
He watches the show a lot. He's very nice.
Oh, look, I lived over there for almost 12 years, right, in Austin. And I covered the Longhorns for a few years. And I know a lot of nice folks, but when they start talking about their beloved Longhorns, they just lose all grip of reality.
And by the way, Billy yesterday at the end of the show went through some numbers that did not paint A&M's, since in the Jimbo era, the NFL draft has not been too kind to Texas A&M, right? Even with the successful 2020 season. And I forget what the number of first-round picks. I think it was 3 that he said yesterday, compared to Texas with 5 in that same stretch.
Okay.
Look, the facts are the players haven't been developed, right? And we haven't been that good. That's the facts.
Yeah.
And that's why you make a change of coach.
The last 3 years, you've been either mediocre or poor.
And here's one for you. And I know he's got a couple. How many big games has Sark won? He beat Bama.
Yeah, that was a big one. And, and he won a lot of Big 12 games. Of course, that's because, they were in the Big 12.
So, look, if they have another impressive year, he'll get his dues. Maybe not completely on this show, but overall he'll get his due if he has a big year in the SEC this year. But he was a 500 coach heading into last season with, by the way, his couple years at Texas, more talent than anybody he played against.
You're right.
He is now going into the SEC where in many cases, he'll have more talent than the other side, but not every case.
And the talent will be, the disparity won't be as great.
Right.
And quite frankly, we've talked about it before, and I truly believe this, having covered both leagues. The difference is when Texas, A&M knows this, when Texas has that game that you're not playing well, like when they played Houston.
Right.
And they got bailed out by the officials. And when they're playing Wyoming and they're, tied in the fourth quarter with Wyoming playing a backup quarterback, and when they're playing Kansas State, which could have forced overtime with a chip shot field goal, but decided not to. And there's another one that was close. When you're not on your game
in the SEC,
you probably lose that week.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, another one of the bites yesterday from Coach Elko. He says, one of my favorite movies of all time is Moneyball. Brad Pitt utters the line, adapt or die. That's where college football is at right now. So I wanted to go back to that scene. You want to? Can we watch it real quick?
Yeah, sure. I love that movie.
Let's go to to the movie clips, whatever you want to call it.
You got a scout here with 29 years of baseball experience. You're listening to the wrong one. Now, there are intangibles that only baseball people understand. You're discounting what scouts have done for 150 years, even yourself?
Adapt or die.
Gosh, I thought about that bite before yesterday. I just haven't verbalized it. Coach Elko beat me to it. But I've thought about that because that's where we are in college football. You do have to adapt or you will die. A college football death.
A college football death. You know what's my favorite scene in that movie?
What's that?
Is when he's telling Art Howe, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, that he's traded Pena. And the Hoffman was such a good actor. And he just pulls it off like, you see that he's digesting, he's feeling like, and then he's like, wait, you just traded our best guy, and it just, this reality.
The depth of the acting there?
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. But by the way, I think you know this. You can find it on YouTube. I went for that movie to the, I don't know about the day, the movie junket to the Bay Area, and I interviewed the real Billy Beane and the real Brad Pitt on the set, at the Oakland Coliseum, whatever it's called, overlooking center field. It was awesome. Getting to interview both those guys, just me and those two dudes, best friends.
Why?
So when I was at 15, 60, and a little bit at 13, but they stopped me from doing that. I was a part of a sports movie junket thing where they'd send me places and I'd interview people. I interviewed Hugh Jackman. I interviewed Jackie Chan. I interviewed throughout the years, who else? You name it. Christian Bale, Batman, the real Batman. I got to interview him for different movies. For his, is it Mark Wahlberg in that movie? Yeah, Mark Wahlberg in The Fighter.
Yeah.
You ever see the movie The Fighter? I got
good.
to interview both of them. I got to go to New York and interview those folks. So that's one of my favorite memories of my career, going to interview Brad Pitt. A long-haired Brad Pitt, by the way. He looked like Kurt Cobain in a way.
Oh, I thought maybe you were sent there to take up for Art Howe, since he's beloved in Houston as an Astro.
He is beloved. He is, yeah.
Well, he won a division for him once with a home run. So
and he was a good manager as well for them. Yeah, nice man.
But
too.
they painted him in the movie as being the villain.
Yeah, that's not a fair. I mean, I don't know how it was in Oakland, but not a fair depiction of his time in.
Well, he very much publicly decried the way he was portrayed in that, and others said no, that wasn't the way he was. But they take artistic license to tell
a story. Yeah, absolutely. So back to the Coach Elko about this. It is so true though. And that's what I think makes Lane Kiffin very good in today's age of college football. We're going to find out. He's got a lot of talent this year. They've got a pretty easy schedule. In fact, I want to start a series probably starting tomorrow, Boom or Bust. I want to go through all the teams, maybe the top 25 teams, and we'll choose a team or two per day to kind of go through and do what's the boom and what's the bust capability for this team, possibilities. You
know what I like about Elko? I know this is very shallow and superficial, but here's something that I like about him from just in the few months he's been the coach. Mm-hmm. You tell me, what's the catchphrase? There isn't one.
I don't think there's one.
There isn't one. He's not trying to come up with.
We ain't done yet.
Ain't like it used to be. If you're afraid of that, get a dog.
But I did like it when I felt like we were going to win.
Yeah, but what we found out, catchphrases get you nothing.
Yeah. At the time, made for some good shirts.
Yeah, it did. But catchphrases get you nothing. Going to work, putting your nose to the grindstone, just having the quote, I hate it, but anyway, the quote, blue collar mentality is what wins for you.
Let me do one more because I think this is important to talk about. Coach Elko on the offensive line. I do know that they will be a much scrappier, much grittier, much tougher group as we move into the fall. It is certainly an area that we have to continue to enhance and improve moving forward. Yes, please, ×2.
Well, but it's an area we have to continue to enhance moving forward. So he's not
satisfied.
He's not satisfied.
But he said that heading into the spring game, we're not a finished product. We are a new program.
Yeah, but I wonder if he's saying, our players aren't just good enough yet, so we got to keep trying to get more guys in. I don't know. I'm trying to interpret that.
I'm going to interpret it as of right now as we're not where we need to be. All right. We know in the SEC you have to be an elite offensive line. You have to be a connected unit, and we're not there yet. And how can you be with new pieces, right?
Right. Well, I hope that's what it is. I hope they're just not a connected unit yet, because you can build that connectivity. I hope it's not a talent issue.
Right. Hope not. But we've never thought it was a talent issue before. We thought that they were poorly coached.
Yes, they were definitely poorly coached, especially some of the things we learned.
Adapt or die.
Adapt or die.
You've got to adapt to the players that you have and the new generation of college football players.
Or block or suck.
Hey, this is the second time it's happened to me here at TexAgs. I left my laptop at home. This is Nick Savage's laptop. Thank you.
I can never criticize anybody for leaving their.
Oh yeah, you have. I forgot about that.
I did the ultimate.
Well, so in the morning, I usually work up my kitchen table as I'm having my coffee, and then I pack up and I go. And I guess this morning I just didn't pack up. I just left.
Is it that TexAgs coffee?
It is that TexAgs coffee. You know, if you can beat the hell out of mornings by drinking TexAgs coffee, go to texags.com/coffee. Get yourself some TexAgs coffee.
Yes. If I drink coffee, that's exactly what I drink.
Yeah, no, you're an energy drink guy.
Some days.
So I can't check your text messages because I'm not logged into our text line, but Luke is absolutely Luke is Duke. He's absolutely connected there, and is Nick Savage. So let's go behind the glass and say hi to the Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
I'm kind of mad you stole the jab from me. I knew that's veteran play by you, David.
What did I do? I don't even know what I did.
Well, I was gonna make fun of you for forgetting your computer, but you just took it away from me. So props to you.
I do that often. I feel especially with Billy around, like you've got to strike first, or they're gonna get you. Tight jeans, baggy jeans, sleeves rolled up, wearing an ABC 13 shirt, like
fake glasses.
Excuse me, are you an intern still?
We'll go back to Nick Savage.
Okay. Sorry, you were saying, Nick?
Nothing, but I'm sure y'all are going to get to it at some point because this is kind of big news for college football. But ESPN released that report yesterday that there's a settlement pending, most likely between the NCAA and that antitrust case, and that's going to lead most likely to a revenue sharing model with student athletes. So every time news like that comes out, I just am reminded how close we are to just major change in college football, and maybe some good, maybe some for not so good. So again, I'm just interested to see what y'all have to say about that.
OB, yesterday Billy made a comment about a completely different topic. He goes, if you listen to this show, we tell you some things that are about to happen without actually saying the actual words, right? And I think this is a case of that as well. Billy has mentioned this. Trev Albers has mentioned this as well. This is why there's some cost cutting going around the country. There's going to be $15 to $20 million that are going to be earmarked for these players. You've got to start thinking that way.
Yeah, and again, the thing that I'm going to be intrigued in. I mean, everybody's been talking about this. It's inevitable, right? So here it is. It's getting closer. I heard them on the radio this morning. Some college football show. Saying expect it within 2 to 3 years, not 10 years, right? It's
coming.
It's coming, and it's coming fast. But I'm still wondering how that money is going to be distributed.
Yeah.
Is Title IX going to get involved?
Well, as a girl dad, I worry about what's going to happen in the future of some of these sports, because I don't want to say rumors. It's not rumors. Some speculation is that some schools will have to get rid of sports, right?
Yeah, but if they get rid of sports, it'll probably be the men's sports.
Well, that affects my boys.
A male non-revenue producing sport.
Sports with a lot of athletes, sports with a lot of travel, it'll potentially go to a club sport.
Yeah, probably if it comes to that. But so if they say he said $20 million, does that mean in Title IX? Does that mean that $10 million of that is going to go to the people that actually make the money, and then $10 million go to the sports that don't?
I feel like and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. One of the rumors of this model is that players can opt in to this NIL from the school, right?
Well, who wouldn't?
If you're a top quarterback, you may not opt in, because I think the salaries are going to be roughly $30,000 is the low, right? Which is great money for an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid, right?
College, right?
But But a college football player could potentially make significantly more money on the open market without opting into this NIL.
See, and as a taxpayer, I would say, all right, if they're going to be employees, now why do they get their college paid for? Because I'm paying for my kid to go.
Right.
So you're going to say, all right, you're going to pay for to school. Well, then why are they going to get? Are they going to still get free rent? Are they still going to get free meals? Are they still get free? Why is that? As taxpayers, and some of our tax money, in theory, goes to that way. You can say, well, the athletic departments operate separately. Well, not everywhere.
Right.
So, do we get into that?
I could use an NIL deal. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I just really wonder where it's...
David, this is what the article says, if you'd like to know. Whatever number is set by the settlement, individual schools will be able to opt in to share revenue up to that number with their student athletes at their discretion. They could choose to share less, but not more.
Okay.
Of course I would opt in, and then I would get something, but I don't see how that could take away your NIL. Because, again...
it's name, image, and likeness. It's like if you play for the Dallas Mavericks, they can't stop you from getting advertising.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's hit a break here. But it has to be real NIL, which I think part of the thing is a lot of people look at the collective as not a real name, image, and likeness. They are a broker to get you those deals.
Yeah. What I imagine would happen is like this: everybody's gonna say, "Hey, we can." The cheating will be, "Hey, now everybody's paying. We don't have to do anything else." It's still going to be the same thing. Oh yeah, everybody always wants more money, and you go back to the Oklahoma Big Red imports that were paying their guys not to work. It'll still be there'll still be cheating.
By the way, I don't think I said what show this is, and people are probably confused. You think they're confused?
No, but we should do it anyway.
Yeah, it's TexAgs Radio. If you guys didn't know what you were listening to, you might have thought you were listening to NPR.
Yeah.
We were presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. That is a must to say, right?
Well, we're definitely not NPR because, we're impartial.
I know.
We're impartial.
No spin zone here, buddy.
but yes, we are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
I forget the name of this beautiful studio.
The Rollo.
The Rollo Insurance Studio.
I started to give it to Jason, but it's just Rollo.
And it's the Go Hour.
It is
presented by the
CC Creations.
That's right. And
not the CNC sound machine or whatever that was.
Oh, we're coming back with
that. What was that?
CNC Music Factory?
Oh, that was it.
Yeah, we're coming back with that. Please, guys, at Bryan Broadcasting. We'll check in with Luke Evangelist there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center when we come back. Right now, if your organization or business is looking to engage with Aggies, then you got to check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during events throughout the year. We're talking about big-time marquee events like Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, Gathering, and they all welcome tens of thousands of guests out there. And there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of those attendees. And these events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. These options include title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition in social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. It is the Association of Former Students. I remember clearly 1986, Olin Buchanan. I wasn't there. White suit at a club, white gloves on too.
No, never wore
dancing,
gloves.
like shaking that rear like it's going out of style, baby.
They were white pants, not a white suit. Just white pants.
White pants with a
multicolored shirt.
Rayon. I could see you in rayon.
And I was
not at the Roxbury.
Might have been the Kempy's in Dallas.
Yeah.
At the Grand Kempinski Hotel, they had a nice bar with a lot of action going on there. So I'd be in town from Tyler for like a Cowboys game. I covered the Cowboys. So Sunday night game, I'd be Saturday night. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did all right.
TexAgs Radio, presented by David, Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the GAR, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Luke, I told you we're going to come to you. We will, but it's going to be real short. So let's quickly do the performance of the week, because I think there are a lot of great candidates out there, OB.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you take the first one?
Well, the guy I was so impressed with the games I saw was Ted Burton.
I knew it. See, I know you the way you think.
4 home runs, but again, I was at least equally impressed with what he did with his glove, especially in that first game that they won over Georgia on Friday. He was amazing in the field.
He was incredible. Can we give Shane Sadeo some love here?
Heck yeah.
Shane Sadeo, look at that, 4 innings pitched there. This was in the game where the Ags were down 9-0. He had to come in, and he did a brilliant job. 4 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. He was fantastic.
Didn't even doctor the ball to do it either.
No. We're also going to give a little props to a gentleman by the name of Caden Sorrell. Familiar with his game this week?
Speaking of defense, another just defensive gem, a David Gardner-style gem. Diving catch in left field that saved some runs.
He is your SEC Freshman of the Week, 538 batting average. He had a triple, 4 RBIs, 2 doubles, went 4 for 4 against Houston, by the way. And and that was in the game Saturday. So in the game Saturday, he went 3 for 3. Against Houston, he went 4 for 4.
That sounds like Earl on a Saturday night at the Angry Elephant. 2 doubles.
Double it up. Let's go to the Angry Elephant using Social Center. Luke, I'm going to allow you the last one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with A&M men's track and field for claiming the 4x400 and 4x800 titles at the Penn Relays. That was the first ever 4x800 Penn Relays title for Texas A&M and broke a 13-year school record.
Any other news you want to get into here before we go to Charean Williams?
Yeah, of course. If I could just scroll down really quick to my notes. There's a lot of them today.
Okay.
Big shout out to A&M men's and women's tennis. The women earned the 13th overall national seed and the men earned the 15th overall seed. So they're both going to be hosting the first rounds at Mitchell Tennis Center. It's the 29th and 30th straight NCAA tournament bids. For both of those teams, they'll be playing 1 p.m. on Saturday and 1 p.m. on Friday for the men.
Awesome. I'll let you some more time. We're going to go a couple minutes late. Sorry, Louie.
Oh, perfect. Okay. How about Aggie men's baseball and then softball? They're both 1 game out of first place in the SEC in both 15-6 in conference play. Softball is traveling to Florida for a top 15 series, and Aggie baseball is hosting Tarleton tonight before traveling to Baton Rouge. And if you are looking for something to do this weekend, you should be out at Mitchell Tennis Center supporting tennis, men's and women's, because baseball and softball are both away. And then Aggie women's golf is hosting the Bryan Regional next week, May 6th through 8th, I believe. They are in the number 2 overall seed in that regional, and it has 4 top 20 teams with number 5 LSU, number 17 Clemson, and number 20 Vanderbilt.
Thank you, Luke. Appreciate you, sir. I also want to throw in this Bronny report from yesterday. I should have stated it earlier on. Gavin Grahovic had an MRI on his left knee yesterday morning, and he heard it in the series finale versus Georgia. Bronny is told that the test came back clean. There's no structural damage, and he fully anticipates for him to be back for the LSU series.
Bravo.
Need that dude.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't expect him to play tonight.
I wouldn't play him.
No way. Just rest that bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll talk to Charean Williams on the other side of the break. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They are on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. That's where you go for your vehicles, guys, in the Brazos Valley. When you need a vehicle, you need great customer service, and you need the people to take care of you. That is Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Start up on their website, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. See what they have. Go in person, get blown away by the customer service, and also by the vehicles that they have. Great pricing, great trade-in values. And again, that customer service is for the entire time that you're there, right? After the purchase as well. They have complimentary pickup for their service customers and delivery, by the way. It is Caldwell Country Chevrolet, about a 15-minute drive from the very edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Dan76 tells me 14 minutes from Rellis campus. So that gives you a little bit of a barometer out there. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. This may surprise you. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, I laugh about this because one day Richard Zane was hosting, and he went on this rant about how bad this song was. And I was like, okay, you know, everybody likes every song, right? And he says, like, and the girl's name in the song, the girl's name, Emmy Lou, is, you know, whoever, his name Emmy Lou. And I said, probably one of the most famous country artists. His name's Emmy Lou, and he just
baffled.
I said, you ever heard of Emmy Lou Harris? And he was, no. I said, well, so you're going on a rant about something you don't know about. He stood corrected.
He stood corrected.
I like correcting Richard Zane.
I think you like correcting people.
Some more than others.
Yeah, that's true. There's a. By the way, we're working on getting Charean Williams on the show. We have some phone line issues, so we're trying to figure that out here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's continue down that track about these deep discussions for settlement framework for revenue sharing, and this is also there was a follow-up report from CBS Sports that says, and we've known this it was reported once before, but the SEC and Big Ten are developing a plan to share revenue with players in a potential landmark change to college athletics. It is coming. I'm not trying to do a Nuñoism here, but it's a lot closer than we think, but there's still a lot of hurdles that they got to get through.
Well, there are things they're going to have to figure out, and how, once you get the guys, I guess, signed as employees to contracts, you have some control.
Right.
Right now, you have no control.
Looks like we got Charean Williams on the line. Nick's going to pop her up on there. Charean from Pro Football Talk, and, of course, our Aggie Hall of Famer here on the program. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. We're over here discussing these reports about the changing landscape of college athletics and the SEC and Big Ten trying to come up with a revenue plan, and college football trying to work it all out. Your thoughts on everything that's happening?
Well, it's wild, and I think what the colleges and obviously NCAA are trying to do is take back some control over what has become the Wild Wild West. It's basically become the NFL without a salary cap. Let's pay players for whatever we want to pay them. I found it interesting over the weekend that Nick Saban brought up that the kid who was drafted from Toledo was the one kid, Mitchell, who, and I won't even try to pronounce his first name, but that he was the one kid that Saban tried to get out of the portal who never would enter the portal, stayed at Toledo. And, he talked about retiring because all his players were going to the portal, yet here he is tampering with the kid, openly admitting he tampered with the kid. So that's what it's become. That's what NIL is now. Let's go find players who are really good at lower level colleges and pay them money to come play at our school. So there needs to be some sort of control, obviously, because it is out of control right now. At least the NFL is structured and organized. There's a salary cap, and there's basically a pay scale. I mean, what guys are getting because the contracts are all reported in, so they have, some wage scale, so to speak. So, it's out of control in the NCAA. So they need to take it back some way, but it's just really hard once you let the cows out of the barn to get the cows back in the barn, and that's what they're trying to do now, and it's hard. And I don't think, athletes realize the tax implications and all that of becoming an employee of the university. That has some things to go with it too that aren't going to be real great for athletes. So it's going to be interesting where this goes and how it ends up, but they need to do something, obviously.
What piques my interest most about what you just said, Charean, is like you mentioned, Nick Saban approached a guy who's not in the transfer portal.
Yeah, correct.
So are we to assume that that's the only guy that he ever approached that was in the transfer portal? And is the NCAA going to then retroactively punish Alabama for, tampering? Of course not.
But they're going to retroactively pay former athletes that should have been paid. That's part of the plan.
So, this is the guy that once complained and made charges against A&M buying players, and here he was, the guy not even in the transfer portal, and he's trying to buy him. What just a colossal hypocrite. I know you're not ever supposed to criticize Nick Saban, but he's a colossal hypocrite.
Yeah, I don't, he says he got out because his players were entering the transfer portal and wanting more money, and that's why he got out, and yet they were. So it was okay to go to Alabama. It was just not okay to transfer from Alabama is basically what it was.
Yeah, to be clear, I don't have an issue if a guy's in the transfer portal going after him with everything he got.
Right. I agree with that.
But he acknowledged that he was going after guys who weren't in the transfer portal. I think they tried to do that with the Utah tight end a couple years. He was first pick of the Bills, right? Kincaid?
That's right, yep.
And he wasn't in the transfer. They came out with supposedly offering like $1 million to get him to stay to go, and he didn't.
Hey, Charean, I know that you're enjoying Aggie baseball. What about the whole Georgia pitcher fiasco in the bullpen that happened on Sunday? I'm sure you saw the video by now.
Yeah. Oh, certainly have. And I think the SEC needs to do something about that. I don't think there's any question that something illegal was going on that glove. I mean, to me, it's just pretty obvious that something was going on. And I think he needs to probably be suspended or whatever you do. Now, I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but I think that's what needs to happen, however long you want that suspension to be. But I thought it was pretty blatant and pretty obvious about what he did, and kind of surprised that it wasn't caught the way he was rubbing on that glove as he was pitching. I didn't get to see the game. I was kind of following on Twitter, but I didn't get to see it, so I didn't see any of that. But I don't know how obvious it was on the broadcast that he was going to that glove all the time, because normally when guys start going to the glove, like the video that I saw, that raises some eyebrows, and it certainly did to somebody on these internet sleuths. Did a great job on it. I think it was John Boy was the first one to sort of point this out. And going down in the bullpen and doing what he did, I think it's pretty obvious he cheated, and I think it's pretty obvious that the SEC needs to do something.
All right, draft. I'm going to ask you about the draft. So tell me, Charean, give me a reason to believe this Tyler Guyton is not going to be the offensive version of Taco Charlton or Mozzie Smith.
Well, what's interesting to me is they drafted 2 offensive linemen who they're planning to start at left tackle and center who've never played those positions. So Tyler Guyton's going to move from right tackle, which he played at Oklahoma, to left tackle, and that's who you're counting on. And it may go well, but there's certainly going to be some sort of learning curve there. And then you're taking Cooper Beebe, who was a guard at Kansas State, and putting him at center, and that doesn't always go well. They tried that with Connor Williams a few years ago, and for whatever reason, Miami finally made that experiment work, but the Cowboys never could make that experiment work with Connor Williams. So, I think you're really rolling the dice here that these players are going to be able to come in and change positions flawlessly and be your starters there, but that's essentially what they're counting on. So, I really do trust Will McClay. I think he's very good at his job. I expect that these are going to be really good offensive linemen, but to switch to a position you've never played before and step in as a starter, I think is asking an awful lot of 2 players. And I worry about that offensive line, and certainly worry about running back, where Ezekiel Elliott right now is going to be your starter.
Let's talk Edge Cooper to the Packers. Yesterday, I feel the theme on the show was perfect fit for a franchise that loves defense, and a guy who can certainly shine there and potentially start as a rookie.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed Houston didn't draft and had that opportunity. I just thought he would have fit great in the Miko Ryan defense and would have become a star, and he still can do that at Green Bay. But if it wasn't going to be Houston, Green Bay is a good fit for him, and I do think he's going to be a great NFL player, and I mean that. I think he's going to be a Luke Kuechly or one of those linebackers who plays a really long time and has a chance to go to the Hall of Fame. Just puts up a real good resume at the end. Obviously, the thing in the NFL is availability and staying healthy, and sometimes that's luck. But if he does that, I just feel real good about the arc of his career. I just think it's going to be a great career, and a little surprised that he didn't go late. He actually went where he was projected to go, but a little surprised that. And I realized also that linebacker is not. It's sort of become like running back, like teams, unless it's an edge rusher, they just don't draft linebackers that high. They feel like they can get linebackers anyway, but I just feel like he's going to be a difference maker for Green Bay. So I was a little surprised he didn't at least go higher in the second round, like early in the second round, top 5 or 6 picks, but probably better for him that he went to a good team rather than a rebuilding team. So all in all, I think it was a win-win for both. It was a win-win for Coop. It was a win-win for the Packers.
The Packers really draft well.
Yeah.
We talked about, and I hate that,
yeah.
but they do. They draft well, and that's why they're always good.
Hey, Charean, we got time for one more on Nia Smith to the Eagles. I know OB was not happy about that. I can see his face right now, but we're happy for Anias.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the comments from the Eagles after that, Howie Roseman and that group about started watching the film and just fell in love with him, all the things they think he can do in their offense, and they're going to use him in a lot of different ways. I think you'll see him used like Deebo Samuel does. Of course, he's going to be a returner for them, and he'll definitely be the returner this year. And then they'll see how they can work him into the offense at running back and receiver, slot, outside, wherever. But they'll get him some snaps, and they'll use him and figure out a way. Again, a pretty good fit for the player, and a pretty good offense, and has a lot of weapons. So he's not going to see the ball a ton. It's going to be sort of like our boy Devon A-Chain last year. I don't know that he's going to see a ton of snaps, but he's going to make the most of those snaps on offense, and I just think he's going to be very, very productive in that offense.
That is Charean Williams there from Pro Football Talk, the Hall of Famer. Charean, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Charean on the program right there. We'll hit a break here. We'll come up with some final thoughts. Check in at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. As a reminder, this is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, proud corporate sponsor of Aggie Athletics and of this show since the first day that we had it. 911 University Drive East in College Station. They got Rolexes, they got timepieces, and they've got all the ideal gifts there for a David Yurman collector. Shop online at davidgardnersjewelers.com. That is davidgardnersjewelers.com. We'll be back in 2 and 2.
Guy that I'm always
There you go.
This is the guy I'm always confusing Travis Chestnut for.
Mark Chestnut.
Yeah, I'm always saying Mark. This is Mark Chestnut.
The Mark Chestnut.
Yeah, for some reason, yesterday I wrote something. I mentioned Travis Chestnut, but after I wrote, I had to go back to make sure I didn't put Mark.
God, isn't that funny? There's certain things that get in your head,
Yeah.
and it's just very hard to get out.
It is.
Hey, we're TexAgs Radio.
We are.
Presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Indeed.
In the Rollo Insurance Studio.
True.
And it's the go hour. We're coming to a close here in about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So that's presented by the warehouse at
CC Creations.
Correct.
Not CC Music Factory.
No. So here's what we have on the show. We have a loaded 9 o'clock hour.
I bet.
Are you interested in hearing?
Yeah, I want to hear about it.
Tom Hart, SEC Network.
Fun Tom.
Gerrod Chadwell, women's golf coach.
Well, they're good all the time.
They're good all the time.
Like the Packers, unfortunately.
Chris Burke, ESPN
Burke.
analyst, baseball analyst, on the program, 9:35. That's just the 9 o'clock hour. Would you like to hear about the 10 o'clock hour?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Are you intrigued?
I can't wait till the midnight hour, but let's talk about the 10 o'clock hour.
John Scheschuk.
Hey, he's a great baseball player here.
Yeah,
I know
and
that.
very good analyst as well.
Mm-hmm.
And your dear friend.
My dear friend.
Ryan Fowler.
Ryan Fowler.
Nice guy. The game on 100.9.
Part of that Alabama media that I have so little respect for.
He's a nice dude.
He's
though.
he's my issues with him are not about his personality.
Yeah. But he'll be on the program because what we're going to do is like we do this every year. We're going to do spring recaps. Go to every program in the SEC, find out about them. And I guess in this instance, we can check in on the new SEC schools.
Yes, in this
particular situation.
Because they will be in the SEC.
Yes, and it's about next season.
Yes.
Not about the season that just happened.
The previous one.
That they weren't a member of the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, they're in the Big 12, hence the Big 12 championship that they won.
And the Big 12 was more like the American Athletic Conference.
Yeah, it's kind of like Kramer when he in that episode where he's
speak more. I like this.
Where he's bragging about being the best in his karate class.
Yes.
And then it turns out, he's a grown man taking a karate class with 10-year-olds.
Yeah. It's that same thing.
Yeah. He says it's not about the age, it's about the skill level.
I watched a couple episodes of Curb last night.
Yeah.
God, it's still great.
I know, it's so funny.
It's Leon. I wish we could get Leon on the show.
Maybe we could if we just knew how to approach him. Some of those actors can be really down to earth.
Absolutely, yeah.
I really like it when they're sports fans too.
I got Michael Chiklis on my old show back in the day from the Shield, Vic Mackey. I've gotten, they're
people
cool.
make fun of, and I get it why you do. They make fun of Matthew McConaughey, but at least
he's a good interview,
and at least he has his team, and he supports his team. It's kind of like Kenny Chesney in Tennessee and Darius Rucker with South Carolina.
My dear friend Darius Rucker.
I'm a big fan of his.
I interviewed him a few years ago.
I like it when you have those celebrities who are honest to goodness fans of their team.
So when I interviewed Darius Rucker, he immediately started following me on Twitter. Do you want to know why?
Why?
I did ask him about college football, but that's not why. He loves Batman. He lost interest.
I loved Batman when I was like
12, 9,
7. 9, closer to 9.
Yeah. All right, Opie.
When I was 6, I had a Batman costume. I used to run around the backyard going, na. But, I was 6.
You also dressed up as Batman not that long ago.
I dressed up as you.
Dressing up as Batman.
Yeah.
Thank you, Opie. When we come back, Tom Hart, we'll break down some college baseball, some college football, you name it. We'll talk about it. You can text us at 979-693-1150. Luke will get to those. Later on, it's TexAgs Radio. Impressive glass of ice. My goodness, there was a lot of ice in that, Tom Hart. Look at that. Huh. That's a lot of ice. Is it really hot in Atlanta?
No, but I've got to go all ice to the top.
Okay.
I've got to.
All right.
Every time.
By the way, this is TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. That is Tom Hart of the SEC Network and ESPN with a tall glass of ice water there. Tom, how you been, buddy?
I've been good. I have not doctored any pitches lately, so I think I should be in good standing with the Aggie faithful.
I want to get into that, but when are you going to get an A&M game again? I think it's been a minute.
It has been a minute. I'll be on the call this weekend for the LSU games Friday and Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that. We won't be on site, which is unfortunate, but just kind of the way of the world. And then maybe I don't want to get out in front of my skis, but I'm really hoping that the wild card. So the way the television schedule works is the final weekend of the regular season. They don't assign any games to the networks. They just hold them back for a wild card. And obviously, Arkansas A&M is shaping up as the series of the weekend to close the regular season. So, knock on wood, the people in charge say, hey, that's where you need to be. So, but I don't want to get too far out front.
Tom, what do you make of this A&M team? And I'll set it up like this. In 22, they beat teams because they could mash. This team could mash. This team has some defense. This team's got some pitching. I feel like they beat you in multiple ways.
Well, I just pulled up the stats, actually, because I wanted to see numerically like where they stand, because we know they can mash, and you see it every day, and they're hitting 2 home runs every game, but they're 16th in the country in average, 5th in home runs per game, 4th in slugging. This is, to me, most important, 5th in on-base percentage. Like, it's one thing to hit a bunch of home runs if nobody's on base, or you can't get on if the wind's not blowing out, then that's different. Scoring 9.5 runs a game. But to your point, top 10 in the country in earned run average and 4th in the country in fielding percentage. I mean, that's just a recipe for winning close, tight games when they matter the most. And everybody knows how the ballpark in Omaha plays differently. It's big, and generally speaking, the prevailing wind is blowing in. So you better be able to throw the ball, catch the ball, and scratch across runs when you have to. And a huge part of that is getting on base. I mean, you get on base, and then you can get over and get in, because the home run's not going to be there every game. Kind of like game 1 against Georgia, even though it was expected with the wind blowing out. Like, hey man, this is going to be a 15-run game. Well, I guess you wait a day to get that one. But no, you're exactly right. All that little stuff comes together for a really successful team as a whole. And big part of that, and I know Berkey can talk about this ad nauseum when you guys have him on later, but it's the pitching, not only in the front end, but the back end is so important.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs. So let's talk about the Georgia thing. The pitching thing, I should say. I'm sure in your time in the MLB and in college baseball, you've heard of the depths that teams will go beyond the Astros trash can thing. I'm sure you've heard many stories that this probably didn't surprise you. I think what probably was surprising was how in the open it was.
Well, is this a hot button topic around there? Maybe a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little hot.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it was exposed, but I don't think it was in the open. Initially, when you've got somebody filming in the dugout and the dude is crouched down in the corner, obviously in retrospect, then when you see his actions, then it looks obvious. But it's really hard to see that in the moment, unless you're another coach. And I'll give you a good example. A Vanderbilt pitcher got caught 2 weeks ago for doctoring the baseball. It's a serious breach of rules, and as evidenced by the punishment. It's a 4-game suspension. So he couldn't pitch at all that entire next week. And that is, if you're a starting pitcher especially, that can be debilitating to your team. If you're the closer, that can be debilitating to not be available for an entire week. Generally, though, I don't want to say everybody does it, okay? Because obviously everybody doesn't do it. But generally, a lot of teams push the boundaries on this. And some individual pitchers may do it more often than others. They may feel they need it. They may have smaller hands. The balls may not be rubbed up enough, which is, by the way, in the power of the home team for their liking. So there's a lot of different factors that go into it. But Kevin O'Sullivan was the coach at Florida when the Vandy guy got caught. And I was talking to Sully about it, and he said, he kind of shrugged his shoulders. He's like, man, we didn't want to say anything. He goes, I'm thinking to myself, just stop going to your arm. Just stop doing it. But it was so obvious. The kid kept, he had, and this is a very popular one that was about 10 years ago in Major League Baseball. They figured this out to get the tackiness. It's sunscreen on the forearm, it was actually a specific brand of sunscreen. It was Bullfrog sunscreen. And then the rosin bag on top of it. So whatever chemical combination that made it so sticky. But the point was, I think a lot of coaches are okay with it if you're not blatant about it. Like if you need to get a little bit more here and there for grip purposes, and in the big leagues, even hitters sometimes will tell you, like, man, it's fine. I'd rather, if you're pitching in Wrigley in April, I'd rather that pitcher have a little bit of grip than a four-seamer coming at my ear hole. But you can't make it obvious. You can't tug at your belt after every foul ball. You can't wipe up and down your forearm after every foul ball every time you get a new ball in your hand. So there's as bad as that looked, there is a gray area when it comes to all of this from the people that I've talked to over the years. And as an opposing player, coach, manager, you just think to yourself, all right, just don't be blatant about it. And we won't make a big deal of it, because I might have 1, 2, 5 guys that do the same thing on my side.
A couple things about that. It's very rare that Gavin Grahovic, Jace, Braden, Jackson Appel all look overmatched at the plate. But that's what happened at the end of the game. What was it? 6 out of 7 batters struck out. And the thing, Schloss was in studio yesterday. I don't think he took too much offense with that. I mean, if he did, he didn't really. But he did notice that their videographer, their social media team, was videoing parts of the of the dugout. And that, I think that is, again, using the technology like we've seen in the big leagues is a problem in college baseball as well.
I am hearing a lot more of those veiled or unveiled accusations when it comes to the use of technology, because there's more technology in the game officially. PitchCom is now at the college level. Well, you don't hear any rumors, or at least people I talk to, maybe I do a deeper dive here, but you don't hear many rumors about MLB teams being worried about other squads hacking into PitchCom and getting the calls to their hitters. But I think because it's new, and why was it put in place? It's new in the college side. And why was it put in place? It was put in place for 2 reasons. A, sign stealing, and the mechanisms put in place to prevent sign stealing drag the game to a crawl, right? Okay, well, we're going to have our coaches call every pitch, but because they call it and they're sending it into the catcher, then sends to the pitcher, their dugout has now multiple opportunities to steal our signs. Let's move it along. Let's do a walkie-talkie into the earpiece. Well, what if they have our frequency, our RF frequency, and they get in on the walkie-talkie? Then they can send a signal to the batter. Okay, what if we use PitchCom? Okay, but let's only use PitchCom when they have a runner at second base. Otherwise, let's stay traditional. Well, then why would you do that? Why would you not use it all the time? Because you must be able to get it from us if you're worried about us getting it from you. So I think there's this paranoia that's just kind of running through the college game right now when it comes to stealing signs and the technology and ability to hijack the technology. I didn't listen to Schloss's thing yesterday, and I'll talk to him later this week. But that's fascinating to me that could be used in such a way that other teams are now. You make the opposition worried about it. You know what I'm saying? I think just doctoring the ball, just getting a little bit more, and obviously there are extremes to this, so I'm not excusing the illegal behavior, although it is commonplace. That's like the simplest way, right? That's the simplest way you could impact the game beyond the scope of the rules. What Schloss is talking about and what other coaches have talked about, hacking into the signals to steal signs, then relay to the batters, that to me is like, okay, we've gone from a gray area to black and white. That elevates it from hey, the runner at second base is going to give you a signed fastball or breaking ball to the Astro scandal, right? And I think that's what made the Astro scandal different than any other sign stealing that had been rumored about or thought about in the past. Was, hold on, this is an extreme and distinct advantage versus this is a maybe I know what the sign is and maybe I can tell you what pitch is coming. You either trust me or don't trust me to steal the sign for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally does. Tom Hart here with us. I want to talk about the Peyton Holt fake sack fly. Can you help set it up? Because, I know it's been done before, but I thought he did it brilliantly.
Yeah. So, by the way, Peyton Holt is like the ultimate college player in that he is just a baseball junkie, and he has spent time on the field thinking of different ways to gain an advantage through trickeration, which is not really a word, but a fun one to use. So against Florida the other day, 1-run game, bases loaded, high pop fly to center field. He camps underneath it, and the runner waiting to tag at third base is going to generally score fairly easily. Like it's deep enough to get the guy home. Traditionally, no real sweat. He raises a glove above his head. For those who just listen, can't see. And then he pump fakes like he's made the catch, like he raises the glove even farther or higher up, but he didn't catch it. The ball was still 30 feet from coming down to the leather. So that caused the runner to break. And then he brought the glove down. Then he made the catch about, shoulder high, letter high. The runner had to retreat to the bag, tag up again. He throws behind him at third. They throw to the plate. They get him at the plate. Instead of Florida tying the game at 6, I think that was in the 7th inning, they get a double play and they get out of the inning. It's just a heads-up play that you don't see. You don't see it at lower levels because it's harder to pull off. And I don't think you see it at the upper levels because guys are just too good. Like that center fielder in the big leagues is more confident that he's just going to make the catch and fire 98-mile-an-hour strike to home plate and try to get the guy. In the college game, these guys spend so much time at the ballpark. They think of ways to gain an advantage, to trick the other team. And it was brilliant. That's why you see the hidden ball play and those tricks more often at the college level than any other level.
Schloss said that this is like, I forget the phrase he used, but maybe the golden era of college baseball, especially with the way minor league baseball is now and players having to stay through their junior year for 3 years. Just when you think about baseball and how much it's grown at the college level since you've been broadcasting these games, can you feel the difference in the atmosphere and the way fans kind of are receiving it?
Well, to me, yes, 100%. It's grown immensely, especially in the SEC, where programs now recognize it, that more people view it as a revenue sport than ever before. I don't know A&M's numbers, but I just remember being told this about Ole Miss. This was a couple of years ago. Ole Miss cleared $1 million before they threw a pitch in terms of the seats that they sold, the club seats and all that stuff, season tickets. And obviously A&M makes a ton of money off of it. LSU makes a ton of money off of it. Tennessee, which is kind of in the hinterlands for a long time in terms of it being a revenue sport, now expanded their stadium to a place where they could make it more of a revenue sport. So all of that plays into how administration views it. But to me, as important is how the big leagues view it, how professional baseball views it. And we had Rob Manfred in Omaha a couple of years ago, and he said, listen, we view college sports now, especially college baseball at the upper level, as a better farm system than what we can provide these players. It's no AA teams out there flying charter. Like they don't have the same sort of weight training and injury prevention programs that these college programs have. And so, and now with the advent of NIL, you're not just putting your earning potential off for 3 years and hope to get higher in the draft and get a bigger payday up front and have a longer career. But now you can get paid to do it, and you can make $100,000 or $400,000 in some instances, which is probably the upper level. But boy, that sure is more appealing to being on a college campus and being in College Station and being able to work on your craft every day. Yes, you also get an education, and you can go watch SEC football, and you can be on a campus, as opposed to riding around on a bus, overnight to get to the next stop and then trying to find a job in the offseason to help pay the bills by working at Lowe's or Home Depot. I mean, it is much more appealing, I think, for all levels, but not the least of which is the higher level guys who make the college baseball even more than it was.
Tom, were you able to check out Nick Saban on the NFL draft coverage there on ESPN?
I saw the reviews. I had games throughout most of it, so I did not see him, but it does not surprise me that he is both insightful and humorous. I mean, the guy has an incredible sense of humor. He just always kept the facade up, whether that was because he didn't want to let people in or because he was so insanely focused on that day's tasks that he didn't really have time to be a jokester and have fun and show much personality. But it's there big time.
To follow that up, are you, I don't know if worried is the right word, but are you concerned with what Alabama will look like this year under Kalen DeBoer? Not because he's not an excellent coach, but they did lose a lot of players. It's a new system. Or do you think they're Alabama, they'll figure it out?
There's a little bit of they're Alabama, they'll figure it out, and the infrastructure is in place to try and keep it from failing. But nothing is foolproof, especially in this new era of college athletics. I'd feel a lot better about Alabama if DeBoer would have had his offensive coordinator with them. They had been together for years. And when I had him at Washington and the Alamo a couple of years ago, it struck me like the connection that these guys had and that staff had because they'd been together for so long. They knew each other so well. So I look a little bit, there's a little bit of a question mark there. I think he was the best choice for the job in terms of who they could get. But at the same time, there are other more qualified coaches who said, you know what, I'm comfortable where I am. Why take the chance and follow Nick Saban? And I think there's room to be concerned if you look at it honestly. And they said IBM's too big to fail, right? Like, is Alabama football too big to fail? Has everything been in place for so long that they are built to withstand that? They'll take some shots this year for sure.
Hey, last thing for you. Shane Beamer had Spencer Rattler's back this week. There were some reports out there about his character, about his time in high school. I guess that Netflix documentary and whatnot. And he's like, you guys, don't know what you're talking about, basically. You've had some encounters with Spencer Rattler. How did you find him to be?
Yeah, I almost went on social media and echoed what Shane said. I don't need to insert myself in all of those conversations. But first of all, I commend Shane for doing it, and you would expect a coach to react that way and to defend his guy. But secondly, I agree with him 100%. Like the discussions that we had with Spencer Rattler, and every time we did a South Carolina game when he was there, and I've done a lot of them, he made himself available and he came in and he met with us, and he was professional and he was insightful. He gave great answers, and he talked about his past and his maturity and gave specific lessons as to, hey, you know what? When I was at Oklahoma, this didn't go right. Now that I'm here, I've taken steps to make sure that doesn't happen again by doing A, B, and C. So I've seen that growth, firsthand. I don't know obviously it's fair in hindsight to say, well, what was the value of being on that show to Spencer Rattler now? If that really hurt him. But at the same time, I don't want to crush the scouts for holding that against them, because it's their job to find every little morsel that they can. And obviously he was overexposed as a high school player, but at the same time, to think that there hasn't been growth there is just silly. And a lot of guys, if they would have been exposed as such when they're 17 years old, would have fallen in the draft if you would have applied that evenly. So I think they missed. I think he can be a good professional quarterback. It's a shame that it cost some money that he fell so far.
Tom, great stuff as always, man. Thanks so much.
All right, David. Thanks for having me.
Later, buddy. Tom Hart there on the hotline. Appreciate his time. When we come back, Gerrod Chadwell, women's golf coach, will be here. We'll talk about the regional. It's getting started very soon there, the Bryan Regional. But right now, Schulte Roofing. They're an award-winning roofing company that provides industrial, commercial, and residential services to Belleville, Brenham, Bryan, College Station, Conroe, Montgomery, Navasota, and San Antonio, the Woodlands, and all those surrounding counties in that area. They are Schulte Roofing, the home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee. I'll say it again. Home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee, the industry's absolute best roofing system. roof insulation, warranty, and 100%, I'll say it again, 100% satisfaction guarantee or your money back. They started back in 1994 with humble beginnings and have just continued to be the standard when it comes to roofing, right? They're committed to excellence with a top 100 roofing company and recognized by industry-leading publications out there, and they maintain an A-plus accredited business with a triple B. Call them up and get a quote right now. Texas number 1-800-4ROOF. Again, that number 1-800-4ROOF. Or you can check out the website, SchulteRoofing.com. That is SchulteRoofing.com. Check it out, 1-800-4ROOF. All right, TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's talk a little Aggie women's golf. They secured the number 2 seed at the Bryan Regional, May 6th through 8th at Traditions Club, and we're joined by Gerrod Chadwell here on the program. What's up, buddy?
Good morning.
I like that look. I'm feeling that.
Brandon, when I walked in, he's like, "You going fishing anytime soon?" I'm like, "Man, fishing doesn't sound very bad right now."
That does not sound. You know what? I'm sure you felt it. It's way hotter than it was last week.
Way hotter. And speaking of fishing, like ponds are full, creeks are full. We've got just did a lap around the golf course today. We got close to 6 or 7 inches at the golf course, but I don't think we got that much at our house.
No, heck no. I was waiting for it.
It was the creek got out of its bank a couple places at Tradition. So poor Tanner, but shout out to Tanner and his crew at Traditions. They're just putting the golf course back together to get ready for everybody to show up next week.
Hey, so before we get into that, just how cool is it to see the men's side? I know you guys go back and forth.
For sure.
They get to the semis again.
Man, and it was, gosh, they had them, similar, you could say, to our match against Mississippi State, didn't maybe have much momentum. But I think Michael Heidelball won his match. I can't remember if they had another one, but Jaime made that big putt on 18, and then I think had a chance on the first extra hole and missed. And just as match play goes, he hits it inside the kid on the second hole, and kid makes a putt, and then Jaime misses his. But I know Aaron had gotten his match; they were going to extra holes, so I mean it can flip like that, and they could have won 3 and 2. But they're also trending and playing great golf, and they find their fate out Wednesday, I believe, for a selection show where they might get sent.
BC sent me this note that caught me off guard. First time to host a regional since 2016 here. It's been a minute.
Been a minute. We weren't. My father-in-law's in town helping me. He came here because my wife played for who's now the Clemson coach who's coming, but Furman was here, and he came here and watched them. And I can't remember. I was at Houston. I can't remember where we were, but it's nice to have for our sport a championship in Aggie land. I know the department's very generous for allowing other sports to host postseason sites. So. And I was telling Brandon in the lobby, I wish it was started yesterday because our girls are ready to get going, and I'm ready to get on the golf course and control some things that I can control.
12-team field, 5 will advance. I'll give you some of the names. The 1 seed is LSU. You guys are number 2. Let's see, they're 5th in the country, by the way, LSU. You've got Vanderbilt coming to town. You've got SMU, Texas State, Sam Houston, and some others.
Everybody's like, what do you think? Well, I know I really like my team. Yeah. And I really like my team on Traditions. The last time we got to play here, we won the Mo a couple years ago. Right. LSU, we've gotten the best of them the last couple times out, but they're a really good team. Clemson, we got them at their home golf course a month or so ago. Vanderbilt won that event, but we did really good against everybody at Pelican. So I really like where my team's at. As I just mentioned, we can't get on the golf course fast enough. If we play our good golf, we'll be headed to San Diego.
I feel like I see a parallel with you all with baseball, right? So baseball is not content winning a series. They want to sweep every series. That being said, the goal is to win the series, right? So the goal is to make the cut. But you guys want to win your regional.
We do. And, I think that's how I processed. I think it's how we processed the letdown of not winning an SEC championship was that they're hungry to come back here and win in front of our fans and win a regional and leave no doubt to going to the national championship. I think we could have been complacent. We could have tried to sleepwalk through here, but I like the little motivation that it served of like, okay, we still got golf in front of us. Let's go handle our business at home. But yeah, Brandon and I were talking in the lobby. I picked up on what Schloss said yesterday is that, it's hard because you're just on to the next. You don't really get to celebrate or rest on anything or take a moment to take it in. It's like, okay, now we're on to the next. We have 12 teams coming in here. We got to get ready. You got finals, all that stuff. And so I'm thankful that we are here. I'm thankful that we get to sleep in our own beds, and I'm thankful that all of our finals will be done before we hit a shot next Monday.
Follow me here. For me, it's weird to see you guys as a 2 seed at home. I know LSU is really good. I know they're number 5, but like in my mind, it's like it's just weird. Is it weird for the players? Like, is it for the golfers? Is it weird?
I don't. We're gonna be paired with 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
I think that's probably a little bit. We had this new ranking format get rolled out this year, which wasn't very good, and still probably needs a lot of tweakings. If you asked everybody that's coming to the regional, they probably feel like we're the 1 seed. That's happening at a lot of places in the country where, the worst thing that could happen, our first year here, we went to Vandy and they were like a 5 or 6 seed. And however many teams advanced, well, they actually won the regional. So they stole a spot from somebody who by rankings should have gone. So I think a lot of coaches look at that, well, you go to, wherever, just take advantage here. Like if we were the 3 seed, well, we're probably still a 1 seed on our home golf course. So we don't really probably get too wrapped up in that. We moved up just through SECs, we probably were going to be a 3 seed based on our ranking throughout the year. But also we played some events without our best players. So, I think it's what makes March Madness great, right? Yeah. When you get the 11 seed that goes on a run or whatever the case may be, you can throw those numbers out next to their names, and it's the golf ball usually decides what happens.
Well, and go back to what you said when you started, like you like your team.
I
you
love
like
my team.
playing at home.
Yep. I do. I love my team. I love where they're at. I love how close they are together. I love, just everything that they've put into to get our program to where it's at. And we have 3 seniors, and for them to be able to play a home regional, I think is a great reward to what they have done for our program. So, I always joke about, when you have a team like this, you just got to get them there on time and make sure the bus doesn't run out of gas and all that good stuff. So the final touches have really been put on everything. We're just trying to, as the golf course evolves and changes with Mother Nature, that's all we're trying to do is just be ready for that.
What's the next week look like for you all?
Well, today it's, actually Traditions is closed just due to all the rain. So we'll either, if they open afternoon, we'll get out there and do some things. But it kind of becomes a little bit more individual based with young ladies having finals, and maybe we have a group here in the morning, have a group here in the afternoon, because I think today's the last day of classes. But really just keeping the stress off of them. We talked the other day, there's no need to do anything that you haven't already done at Traditions. Don't try and hit a shot that you haven't already hit. Like we talked in the lobby that over 800 some odd shots will decide this.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful that's 54 holes, and I'm thankful that we're going to be here with the 12th man.
To go back to your March Madness analogy, what team that maybe people aren't thinking about at this region are you like, got to watch out, this team is better than what you think?
Yeah, you got to think, so Maryland beat us at Houston. I think they're the 7 seed. It's interesting, a lot of people, the first thing that they look at when they go to regional is, are we changing time zones? Are we changing grasses? Are we changing climates?
Right.
So maybe somebody in a southern climate that I'm trying to think who that'd be. SMU won that tournament in Houston. SMU got the best of us last year at regionals. So, they'll be tough. But, man, you still got to play good golf. Good golf's going to get rewarded. Once again, it's 54 holes. It's not a head-to-head thing. So it normally sorts itself out.
And here's a cool note. Fans can come out and watch for free.
Yes. We'll be Monday morning. I think we're in that first group. It starts at 8 a.m. Come out Sunday. If you got to work Monday, Tuesday, you can come out. Sunday is our practice round. We'll tee off at 8:30. Very casual. The girls will just be hitting multiple shots trying to get ready. But, man, I think the response that we've got just from volunteers and the buzz, I think we'll have a lot of people here. And it looks like Mother Nature is going to cooperate. The rain's out of the forecast for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So would love to see anybody and everybody come out and support the young ladies.
Has this year just gone by like that?
Oh, the whole 3 years has gone by. We had a banquet the other night to celebrate the seniors in the year, and it's just the reflection of when we started to where we got here. Just it's unfair that we just really haven't got to step back and say, man, they led the department in GPA last year. All the trophies that they've won, all the memories that we make, it goes by so fast. But we came up with a stat that in the banquet that this group has played 40 events, and 35 out of the 40 they finished in the top 5, and that's what you got to do to advance amongst stronger fields. 25 of those they were finished in the top 3, and we had 7 wins. So it's amazing what this group has done. So I'm excited to see them get to compete on their home turf and get us in the top 5.
No off season because you guys are so good.
And you go right into recruiting, and then young ladies show up in August. It's just it's a vicious cycle that that we choose, and we love doing it. But it's a long year with recruiting in between, and then we start over again. So I don't know. They've taken us on an amazing ride, and I'm forever indebted to them for that.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me. Giggle.
Get you back whenever you're done.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we'll not like done with the regional, not done. Like
let's talk about the regional. We'll break it down.
We'll break it down and come back after that, and after that, and after that. All right.
Our audience will be familiar because everybody will be out there watching.
Heck yeah, free. Go enjoy it.
Come on.
Thanks, G. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
When we come back, Chris Burke on TexAgs Radio. All right, it's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline. We're joined by Chris Burke of ESPN and SEC Network all over the place. Chris, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us here this morning. We'll start off things with something that'll probably surprise you that I want to start off with. The number one team in the country, Texas A&M. Just what do you think about this run that they've had? 6 straight series wins against ranked teams.
You know, it's been quite a run. I think the consistency and the explosiveness of that lineup has been really what stood out. You know, there's a star power there that's undeniable, but I think maybe the players that were not quite as shiny to start the year, you know, for instance, Burton last weekend just having a monster year, like it's, you know, Montgomery and Lavalette, those guys have continued to shine and be dominant players, but the pieces around them have been so consistent and productive. I think that's the part that makes the lineup so scary.
Isn't it interesting, too, because you look at that top 3 in the lineup and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And when you get through that, whatever happens, there's, you know, Jackson Appel, there's Hayden Schott, there's Teddy Burton. Like, it just continues to be an onslaught.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, kind of my point is you figure, oh, well, Montgomery and Lavalette, they can't keep it going all year long, which they kind of have, and Kovac. But it's definitely, you know, Schott and Burton and Appel. Like, those are the guys that to start the year, you just weren't sure, you know, you're never quite sure about transfers. And when you see it on full display and then you see it over and over and over again against Southeastern Conference pitching, at that point you're like, oh, this team is not going anywhere.
You know, the cool thing for us here is, like, it feels like Schloss in this modern era of college athletics has built a program that can withstand, right, that can be a consistent top 5, top 10 type of program. Obviously, with transfers, things can change quickly, but it feels like he's building it in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, Schloss has a pretty good track record. He's won everywhere he's been. He won right away. It's pretty remarkable, really, the consistency with which he's won at a number of different stops. And, you know, we all know the recruiting base that Texas A&M has with just how incredible the facilities are, and then, of course, the location and their proximity to so many great prospects. But then, you know, Schloss has just done a great job in the portal. And every coach is on the front end of trying to figure out exactly what the best portal recipe is. And man, has he seemed to figure it out. And what's interesting is we know about sports is a copycat world. And so with the success he's had in the Ivy League, you know, people are going to be trying to come after those players maybe even harder than they have in the past, just with how well some of those kids have transitioned into the Southeastern Conference.
Well, you talk about how well he's done in the portal, and obviously the Ivy League guys have been a huge part of it, but no bigger name than the guy who came from Stanford and Braden Montgomery. Just talk about the season he has. We knew he had top 5 potential, and he certainly lived up to that.
Yeah, no question about him. Braden Montgomery is superstar talent, but you just didn't know exactly, you know, was there going to be enough contact? You know, there's obviously been some swing and miss history with him. There's always what's the right word? There's always the conflict of your draft year that even the most stable of situations, sometimes kids can not perform as well. But he's just, I mean, he hit the ground running, and there has been almost no dip in production, and he's solidified himself. I mean, I don't think there's any question he's going to be a top 5 pick. I don't see any way he drops below, you know, the top 10 in the draft. And, you know, if you were doing a combine scenario, I think Braden Montgomery would measure out at the very top of almost every team's draft board. But it is a crazy crowded top of the draft with guys like Bazana and Condon and Caglione and Weatherholt, Kurtz. I mean, last year we were freaking out with how talented the college crop of prospects are, but this year it's equally as exciting. And of course, Braden Montgomery is right up there with any of them.
Well, let's go a step further into this top five here. And Charlie Condon, we got to see him up close and personal. Just a cool story to watch his growth, his meteoric rise, Just your thoughts on what you're seeing from Charlie and Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I think Georgia's a fantastic story with how they've consistently performed. They're hanging in there from a NCAA tournament standpoint, and Condon to me is right there with Wyatt Langford as far as the best hitters I've covered in college baseball. The ability to make the right swing decisions, the ability to get to his power so consistently with almost no what appears to be manufactured lift. Like he doesn't look like he's up there with the predetermination of trying to hit the ball in the ballpark. It's just the pass and the hand-eye coordination and the explosiveness with which he moves the bat. It just, when he's on time and accurate, the ball goes out of the ballpark. It's just that simple. But even more to the point, there's more than just the homers. There's the batting average. There's the doubles. He walks. So it's a 2-year run that pretty hard to match. I mean, Gordon Beckham, longtime big leaguer and probably the greatest Georgia hitter ever. Condon beat his home run record a little over a year and a half. It's wild.
Chris, we've talked a lot about the A&M offense, but that pitching staff, they've had a couple duds out there, but what pitching staff hasn't? That's really been the part that I think has surprised not only Aggies everywhere, but the country.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I think to me, the pitching was the biggest question mark to start the year. And you look at the way Prager has, I think the most important thing a pitching staff can have is to know what they're going to get on game one. Doesn't always have to be Paul Skeens and Hagen Smith, but you have to have a feel that you're going to get a quality outing. And for the most part, I mean, he's been as consistent as any number one starter in the league. And, I think the bullpen, everybody knew Oshenbach and Cortez were going to be solid. And of course, they've had the emergence of Lampkin and there's been people that have stepped up in addition to Prager being so solid. But I think just in general, when you look at, an ERA of sub-4, I don't think anybody could have predicted that. And we're deep enough into the season now where it's like, there's no reason to believe that pitching staff's going to do anything but continue to get sharper and sharper down the stretch. I mean, to me, we're kind of past the point of wondering. You're now in the point of like, okay, you know what you're going to get from these guys. And from that standpoint, it's a formula that's hard to see them not finishing the season in Omaha.
Chris, let's close out with this. As a college baseball fan, how fun is this season to watch, especially in the SEC? You've got Arkansas, you've got A&M, you've got Kentucky, you've got Tennessee, all fighting with a chance to get that top spot.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting down the stretch, right? I think 2 weeks ago it kind of looked like Arkansas and Kentucky, and now A&M and Tennessee are right in the fight. Very interesting to see how this thing's going to play out. And we all know, the postseason's kind of a different race. Similar to basketball, who wins the regular season doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the team that goes the farthest in the NCAA tournament. But everybody wants to win the regular season title. It's a terrific honor, and to be able to have a ring and post a banner, so to speak, means a lot to these programs. So I think it's going to go down the last game. It's probably going to end up being a co-champ scenario. But honestly, it's interesting. I think if you were handicapping it, the two teams that are not in first place right now, Tennessee and A&M, probably have the best chance of going the farthest in the postseason. So we'll see if that continues to play itself out. But the top four in the league, really, really scary teams that, I'd say it'd be surprised if at least two, if not three, of those four are there in Omaha.
Chris, great stuff, man. Let's do it again, okay?
Okay, appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Chris Burke there on the hotline, ESPN and SEC Network. Let's hit a break here. When we come back, we'll check in at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Right now, a moment for Aggieland Express in celebration of their new location. Aggieland Express Car Wash invites you to get a car wash for a cause. All this week through Friday, May 3rd, 100% of every car wash sale at the new location will be donated to the Salvation Army's Community Food Pantry in Bryan College Station, only at Aggieland Express Car Wash at 2528 Texas Avenue South, in College Station, across from the Planet Fitness. We're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. That's where we find Luke Evangelist. Luke, I feel blind. I don't have the text message thread open. Has anything come in?
Yeah, we've gotten a couple text messages. Matt in San Antonio said, my favorite Elko quote from last night was, we've got to get back to being Aggies. We've got to get back to putting our hearts and souls on display every Saturday.
Love it. It's a soundbite. It's the truth, though. Look, there is something to be said about living up to, like, old school reputation, right? Like, there's something about that, especially at a school at A&M, like A&M, that had the wrecking crew, that has the kind of spirit that we have, the way we like to tackle our business, our blue collar mentality. Like there's something about that, our football team kind of living it on the field for us. I love the idea of being defensive dominated. And look, I do want to see an aerial attack offensively because you got to keep up with the times. What was the quote? Evolve or die, or adapt or die, right? Like, so yes. But I like us being gritty, grimy. Let's go punch you in the mouth. Old school 1960s Chicago Bears, 86 Bears, whatever, 85 Bears. So I like that. And I feel teams are built, excuse me for using the term, in the image of their head coach, right? If that's what their head coach, if that's the kind of players that he recruits, if that's what he demands to practice, that's the kind of team you're going to get. Luke?
Yeah. David in Temple says that he loves that Tom Hart has been properly indoctrinated into the Aggie family and that he accepts it.
You know, Tom is such a polarizing figure on the board. Some people think he doesn't say nice things. I think he's always polite about A&M. I do. Like, I've said this on the show before. I lost a viewer or a listener, and by the way, we all lose them, we all gain them, right? It happens, right? For thinking that A&M was going to lose that Tennessee football game on the road. Call it the way you see it. I think most people like when you're honest and not just telling you, what you want to hear. Like, look, this is what I think. And sometimes we do say it with rosy or maroon tinted glasses, but you got to be 100% honest. And I think Tom does a great job with that. He gets our program, he gets our guys. And people are saying it's not what he says on the show, it's what he says on the broadcast. I don't ever really notice anything that would make me feel, you guys know, like, Luke, is it fair to say that if somebody attacks my school, I'll probably attack back?
Yeah, you will.
So I don't find that to be the case with Tom Hart. He's one of my favorites out there. Let's try to get one more in.
Yeah, Trey and Brian says that he noticed Georgia was one of the only teams that still uses the decoder card on their belts, and said maybe that they were worried about teams stealing their signs because they were stealing teams. Kind of what Tom Hart was saying.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know how I feel about this whole cheating thing because, like, I can defend the Astros and then hate everybody else. So it's weird. Look, when it's our team, we learn to justify. When it's another team, we go after. How about this? 0 tolerance for cheating. 0. All right, we'll come back with John Scheschuk, get his thoughts on the Georgia pitcher, the LSU series coming ahead, Charlton, you name it. Working with Bronny, they got to do the 3-man booth this past weekend. We'll get into that, plus much, much more. You are listening to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. So if you're listening this weekend or watching Aggie baseball, you got to hear three of my dudes, right? The voice, Andrew Monaco, he was on the show yesterday. Ryan Broniger, he was on the show yesterday. And John Scheschuk, he's on the show today. How about that three-man booth, John?
Three-man booth was awesome. I do have a problem, though. I didn't hear any Fat Pat rolling into our segment here. We talked last time, David, about getting some late 90s hip-hop or Brooks and Dunn. I don't care which genre. So next week, man, we got to get that right, okay?
You know what? You're right. That's on us, but it's on me for not telling the staff because I don't push the buttons. I got to tell them the music to play. We'll get some Fat Pat, Tops Drop. Yeah, I remember.
Tops Drop wins Fat Pat wins championships, David. Fat Pat wins championships. If you play that song, you're winning. There's no doubt. No, the three-man booth was awesome. I enjoyed working with Bronny, and of course, Monaco is such a pro, and those guys know their stuff. Bronny knows his stuff better than anybody as it relates to that program. He's just over there all the time and has great relationships with that coaching staff. So it was fun to work with those guys. It was a great time for sure.
All right, so we're going to work our way to the beginning and back and forth as we look ahead. But I do want to go to the Georgia pitcher situation, but go to the last 6 outs, right? What you're thinking at the time, not necessarily knowing what was posted later on social media, but just like, wait a second, Brady Montgomery never looks outmatched, right? And Jason Lavalette doesn't, and it's 6 out of 7 batters that just look confused at the plate.
Well, I'll tell you about Maragna, and Bronny will attest to this. He was kind of ripping on me about it. When Maragna came in, I didn't think his stuff was that explosive at all. And then it was almost like a switch flipped. He started getting carry on that fastball, and he was elevating that four-seamer and getting swing and miss by darn near everybody, as you just mentioned. So I wasn't really thinking about, what happened with the video like you explained during the game, but it was noticeable how much jump he had on that fastball. That thing was rising well, or not rising well. It was staying on plane well and spinning hot, and the Aggies just couldn't come up with a barrel on that guy. So he was tough. And the same thing kind of happened with Smith, too. Early in the game, his slider was off. He was leaving it over the middle of the plate. And you saw in that first inning, Jace smokes the ball. I'm talking about game 2 on Saturday, or excuse me, game 1. Jace smokes the ball to right field off of Smith. And then you see Braden smoke a ball. And, the Aggies were rolling early. And then all of a sudden he gets settled in and basically over for a long time. So it was weird to see how those Georgia pitchers sort of started off slow. Again, we saw Friday night that happen. And then on Saturday, they sort of started off slow with Maragna, and he came back and was super strong and was getting punch out after punch out after punch out.
Talking to John Scheschuk here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I don't know which game I enjoyed the most, right? You got the first game on Saturday that obviously down 9-0. I hated it. Then within 12 minutes, I loved it because it's 9-8. That was a fun game to run rule them. But the Friday's game, man, the homers, the defense, the pitching, that was a really good baseball game.
Yeah, it was a complete game for sure. And A&M just does what did what A&M does. They came out and just, dominated on the mound with Prager. And Prager gives up the huge home run to Condon in the first inning. But he's able to get settled in and just pitches great. And then to your point, they just were solid in all facets and were able to pick up that W. So it was a great win for the Aggies on Friday night for sure. And then, of course, Saturday, craziest game I think I've ever seen. I wasn't on the call in that game. But for them to give up 9 in the first, come back with 8 in the bottom of the first, and then hold Georgia there. And I told Bronny and Monaco that in the studio, what odds are more unrealistic? For Georgia to score 9 runs in the first inning, or for them not to score another run the rest of the game with that south wind blowing out? That was incredible to see that kind of a stop. And Shane Sadeo stepped in and did a great job in that game. But it was a very weird dynamic. You have Friday, more of a traditional type game where you're getting all phases in. Saturday, you have the huge come from behind, and then the blowout on the backside, which is also strange. And in Saturday, game 2, you have the nail biter, which is, kind of what we expected maybe earlier in the series. I don't know if I expected that nail biter to come on game 2 of a doubleheader on Saturday. Let's
talk about a couple of those pitchers there. Shane Sadeo, Chris Cortez. We've seen them at times struggle. We've seen them at times money. And when they're money, it's game changers for this team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw Cortez give it up a little bit later in the series, and that's somewhat of a head scratcher to me. Again, I just see his velocity and I see his confidence with that slider. He seems to be pitching pretty well. It was a great sign, up until Saturday, or I'm getting confused because of the doubleheader here. Sorry about that. He has pitched well up until this weekend, and I don't think he pitched terrible this weekend. I just think he got a couple balls up in the wrong spots, and Georgia was able to do some damage with him. But Sadeo, that was a huge part of the doubleheader. I mean, for him to chew up that many innings in that game one on Saturday really put the Aggies in a great position. I know they didn't get the sweep, but he pitched really well, and I'm excited for him, and I'm excited for Texas A&M because they need Shane Sadeo and they need Chris Cortez. Those guys are going to be keys when it comes to playoff time if the Aggies want to advance and get to Omaha and ultimately win a national championship.
One thing that I love, and it's not just sound bites, right? But this team wants to sweep. They're not content just winning the series. And look, the games that they've lost in those situations have been by a run with a chance to win. And we already know how the Georgia series ended and some of the cloud in that one. This team has a chance to win every game they're in. Down 9-0, down by a couple runs late, down by a run late, whatever it may be, they find ways.
They do, and Bronny talks about that in the broadcast a lot. They're able to win any type of game you want to get in with them. I mean, they can slug with anybody, but when the going gets tough, we've seen them pitch pretty well. I mean, I thought Lampkin did a great job in that series. I was proud of him too, and I know the coaching staff was excited about that. They need Lampkin for sure to win some of those games, and I think Tanner Jones will get it going again too, as he had a rough outing on Saturday. But you're right; they can win any kind of game you need them to win. They're comfortable in the nail biters. They're comfortable in the blowouts, and they're comfortable just getting after it in all phases. So it doesn't matter what type of game presents itself. Texas A&M has an answer for it, or at least they have thus far.
Well, let's go a little deeper on Justin Lampkin because he did have a couple of rough starts before this last one. Getting him right, man, like that is a difference maker right there.
It is. I'm sitting here looking at his stats. He's got a 4.47 ERA. He's 2-1. He's got good his strikeout to base on balls ratio is 59-15. So his numbers aren't bad. His batting average against is 243. So I think the confidence factor with Justin is going to be big, like it is with any pitcher. And we saw that in his start over the weekend with Georgia. I mean, for him to come out against a very potent lineup and put up a pretty good line says a lot about his character and resolve. And I even noticed in the game, Bronny calls it that feather change that Evan Aschenbeck throws. And you've kind of seen Lampkin sort of take to that as well. It's a very soft changeup. I don't mean from a velocity standpoint. I just mean it has a lot of movement to it, and it's really diving hard away from right-handed hitters and down and into lefties when he throws it to lefties. So maybe that changeup is the secret sauce for him once he's kind of got command of that, and that could be a pitch that catapults him through the rest of the season. So we'll see.
A little bit of a rough outing for Tanner Jones. Just talk about what you've seen from him this year, and hopefully that one is an isolated incident for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I know the Georgia situation's been discussed ad nauseum. Who knows if that was the case or not? It seems to be, somewhat of an outlier for him. I wouldn't panic if I'm an Aggie fan. I think he's proven that he can go out there and give you solid starts. So let's just chalk it up for one of those outliers where it was a rough day. And, he's one of those guys you got to get back out on the mound when it's his time up next week and get him the ball and be confident with him and say, let's go.
So we're about 9 minutes into this conversation. We haven't talked about Teddy Burton. I mean, he might have been the headliner, if not, right? Like he probably was the headliner.
Yeah, and of course, everybody wants to go to his offense, but his defense was spectacular as well. He played a great first base all weekend long. And, we had talked on the broadcast about my discussions with Michael Early several weeks ago. And Michael Early had told me, hey, watch out for him. He's got some pop in that bat. And I know they've been trying to tweak a few things with his swing internally there. But, man, when he figured that out, it was like the floodgates opened. It wasn't a shock to me, again, based on my conversations with Coach Early and what I've seen, him just being on the baseball. It wasn't a shock to me, David, that he was able to launch some balls out of the yard. And, man, what another weapon for that lineup that was already lengthy. You start to get that power surge from Teddy, and all of a sudden, man, you add another dynamic to an already potent lineup.
John, we had Chris Burke on the program, and he was talking about how well Schloss has used the portal. And we know that. I mean, the first name you think of is Braden, obviously. But Think about the Ivy League guys, and he brought that point up, like these Ivy League players, the Jackson Appels, right? The fact that they've been able to, Hayden Schott, excuse me, I should have said as well, the way they've been able to impact this team on the field, off the field, and have huge moments.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at their numbers here. I mean, you've got Hayden Schott at 327. You know, you've got Ted Burton at 296. Jackson Appels hitting 355. Ollie Camarillo's hitting 319. These are integral parts of your offense that weren't on the team last year.
Mm-hmm.
And Burke's right. I mean, what an incredible – of course, Montgomery is the headliner. But Burke's right. What an incredible job of refilling this team with portal players and getting the right culture fits, getting the right baseball fits. These are all facets that contribute to the success of Texas A&M's team, and Coach Lawson and that entire staff needs to be credited for that.
Do you think we take Braden for granted sometimes? I mean, he's only been here this season, and also Jace, right? Like, we take those guys for granted where, 20-plus home runs, both of them, batting 300-plus, like just the year that they're having, we just kind of expect it.
Yeah, I think it's easy to fall into that as a fan just because you see it day in and day out. But I would just really challenge people to enjoy what you're seeing here. This is an all-time great Texas A&M baseball team, and I hope in the postseason they get the credit for that too through winning regionals and super regionals and ultimately a national championship. And I want to say this too, David. In the broadcast, I was talking about our program and where it stands. We've got the CEO. We've got a highly accomplished assistant coaching staff. You've got the back office support. You've got the fan support. You've got the monetary support. This is a top 5 program today, right now. The only thing that Texas A&M is missing is the hardware. And for me, that's a byproduct. That's going to come. I'm super confident that will come with Coach Sloss leading the charge. But I'm excited for that to happen for Texas A&M. Of course, as a fan, I want my university to win at the highest level. But I think once that first one comes, there's a potential to see that type of dynasty that you've seen at LSU and other places over the years. That's all it takes is getting over that mental hurdle of winning one, and you might see the floodgates open. Again, all the reasons I just stated, the top 5 program right now, and we're very well positioned to be that for a long time under Schloss's leadership.
Well, under that thinking, how important is it to win the SEC? Obviously, the ultimate goal is winning a national championship, right? You don't want to mortgage that but knowing this coaching staff the way that they want it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, you get a ring when you win the conference. Winning the conference is a huge deal, and it's just one more building block to driving the program forward. It's not going to make or break our postseason chances. But I've always been of the mindset of, look, the SEC regular season title matters. The SEC tournament title matters. Now, some people would argue otherwise. Some people would say just get rested for regional, and I understand that. But anytime you're able to win a high-level league or a high-level tournament, it's a feather in your cap, and again, it's a brick that you're laying for the foundation of something special.
Talking to John Scheschuk here on TexAgs Radio. So we dodged the bullet. Gavin Grahovic it looks like he's going to be okay. He probably won't play today, but he'll play, it looks like, this weekend, according to Bronny. Scary, though, man. A guy at the top of your lineup having the kind of freshman year he's having.
Well, every team's going to say they have the next man up mentality, and that has to happen because injuries are part of sports, as you know. But if Gavin goes down, and when I saw that happen, I thought he had reached for first base in one of those awkward step positions. That wasn't the case. So I don't know where it got tweaked or how it got tweaked. But when I saw that happen, of course, for him as a human being, you have compassion and you hope he's okay for him and his family. That's number one. And then number 2, for Texas A&M baseball's team, I was very nervous because that changes the trajectory of the team instantly. He is just such an integral part of that lineup, David, and also such a great kid and such a great leader, even as a freshman, through his actions, that would have been a devastating blow for Texas A&M. So I'm really happy for him personally that he's okay, and I'm also happy for our university that he's okay because we need him big time.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And one other name to throw out there, how about Caden Sorrell, your freshman of the week?
Doesn't shock me. Again, I'll go back to conversations I had maybe 6 weeks ago, and we knew that they had some freshmen that are ready to go on the bench, right? And I don't remember exactly when Caden got in, but we knew that one of those guys, it always happens. There's always somebody that comes off the bench maybe halfway through the year and is a huge contributor. And Sorrell's just got that high level talent. I mean, he's he's a pro ball guy like Jason, like Braden, like Rahovac. He's got those kind of skills with that 6'3" frame and his ability to run, catch, and throw and do all the things that are required. So doesn't shock me at all that he's handled the situation the way he has. And I'm happy for him. And again, for our team, he's been a great addition. Ronnie talked about this. Hayden Schott has been a better player at DH. He took that role of DH and he has run with it. And the Texas A&M Aggies have become a better team with Caden Sorrell in left field. So those two things combined have improved. They've raised the tide for our team. So credit the coaching staff again for having the trust to put a freshman in there. The freshman has responded, and your veteran has accepted his role as the DH, and he's actually performed better. Remember, Hayden Schott was struggling a little bit for a while. And ever since that move has been made, it's like the pressure has been taken off, and he's done very well in that DH spot.
And then, like, we're thinking about this year, but, like, this is going to pay off next year and the year after that. The at-bats, the experience, they're already playing out at a high level with Hayden and Gavin. Like, what are they going to look like in a couple years?
They're going to look like Jace and Braden do right now. I mean, those guys are going to be just absolute horses as they grow because of the experience level you mentioned. And then A&M's going to do what they did this year. They're either going to bring a Jack Bell up off the bench and get him at second base, or they're going to, find guys in the portal to come fill in the gaps where they need it. So our program is in very, very good shape. And my trust level with Coach Sloss is so high. I just think he is one of, if not the best coaches in college baseball. I mean, he's a no-nonsense guy. You can see his demeanor on the bench. I mean, he is expecting results and demanding that from his team. We've talked about it almost every week. The level of accountability that I see him show on the field is high. And those players respond to that because they know they're there to do their job. And I think it's just time. It's only a matter of time before Coach Sloss gets it done here in Aggie land. He's got it going for sure.
Tarleton tonight, obviously, let's keep winning those midweek games, right? Like, just your thoughts heading into this one.
I don't understand how a team can act this professionally, even though they're college kids. I should say college young men. They just keep getting it done in non-conference and on Tuesday. It's impressive. And it doesn't matter what Tarleton throws out there tonight. If the Aggies are ready to play, they're going to win the game. And I'll go back to Schloss. His mindset from the first game until now has been opening day. You've heard that over and over and over and over again. And you have seen that come to fruition with this team, David, because they have been absolutely nails on these midweek and non-conference games. It's incredible. I've never seen a team be that successful for that long on these Tuesday and non-conference games. At some point, you think there's going to be a hiccup there, but the Aggies are just a machine. They keep on rolling.
All right, last thing for you. Let's look ahead at LSU series, an important one because of what's at stake, and also LSU. I mean, they may not be the same team from last year, but they're still the champs until they're beaten.
Yeah, LSU for me personally is just under Texas. I mean, my desire to beat LSU is strong as a fan, and I've been looking at their numbers. I mean, their team ERA is 4.38. So they're giving up some runs. So the Aggie, I think the Aggies have a statistical advantage, not only in the win-loss column, but also in the individual stats. And, of course, Tommy White is Tommy White. He's going to get his. He's kind of like Condon.
Yep.
You just got to minimize your damage with White because he's such a stud on the offensive side of the ball, and he's so experienced. But, no, it's not a traditional LSU team. You're still going over there and getting in an environment that won't be quite the same. I don't think they're going to have the zeal that they've had in years past just because their team isn't doing as well. But Coach Johnson over there will have them ready to go, and you've got that cast of characters that's been there before and won. So it'll be a tough test for A&M.
John, I appreciate it, man. Great work as always.
Hey, thank you. Have a great day, man.
See you, buddy.
Thank you, David.
Take care. Fat Pat for life.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. See ya.
See you, bro. John Scheschuk there on the hotline. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, I want to get into another comment from Coach Elko when he talked about Connor and what he saw from him this spring. We'll also get to your text messages at 979-693-1150. And after that, Ryan Fowler, talk a little Alabama football, trying to get to know all the teams in the SEC, the current teams in the SEC, maybe the two new ones too. That and more, it's TexAgs Radio. That awkward silence when I start a segment, looking into the abyss. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center here in a minute, but I do want to read this bite from Coach Elko yesterday at the Brazos County A&M Club. He said, offensively, the million-dollar question is, will he be fine? That's how it's kind of written, so I'm just doing that. And he says he was able to get a lot of quality work in. He'll get a lot better by the time we show up for Notre Dame. I'm not worried. And I guess if this was August 1st, I'd be worried. But I feel like that's kind of part of the track of getting healthy, right? Like, you got to get the confidence back, that you trust your feet, that you trust your legs, and you got to get the rhythm back. We've seen Connor Wigman. I know he's only got 8 starts, but we've seen him over 2 seasons. The guy's a high-quality quarterback that was being discussed as the very best in the SEC before he got hurt last year. So I'm not worried about Connor. I don't think his bones are going to heal differently than other human beings, right? Like it's part of the process. And Coach Elko feels the same way. And, oh, by the way, in today's world of college football, you better have a couple quarterbacks. Riley Leonard got hurt last year. Quinn Ewers got hurt last year. Jalen Milroe, he got hurt last year too, right? Didn't he miss a little bit of time?
They said it was an injury, but I think they benched him for that second game.
All right, so who else am I missing out there? I know there's other quarterbacks that went down for some time. So that does happen. Look, you got to have 2-3 guys, and I haven't read it yet. I'm going to read it later on today, but I know Billy wrote about Marcel Reed on the premium board. Speaking of the premium board, let me tell you guys about the preseason kickoff. So it's Saturday, July 27th. We did varsity registration last week. We've opened it up for our premium subscribers now, and it is sponsored by Power 5 Financial. It's a great event. What you need to do is go to texags.com/kickoff. That is texags.com/kickoff to register and get your tickets there for the PKO, the preseason kickoff. Luke, did you go to it last year?
Yes, I did. I was fortunate enough to help out with it, actually. It was a lot of fun.
When did you start? Because I feel like you've been here a while. Was that right around when you started with us?
I actually started a year ago.
Now.
Minus 1 week or plus 1 week. May 5th or 6th was my first day.
That's right.
Yeah.
So about to be a year with the team, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yep. Hey, what do you got for us there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center?
I just wanted to give a reminder that the transfer portal closes today. So if you're thinking about it from an A&M roster perspective, I saw a lot of people on the TexAgs chat saying we need a good wide receiver, but not sure if you're going to be able to get one. Everyone that's in the portal, it's not like you have to choose a school by this deadline. It's just that's your deadline to enter the portal. So on an A&M perspective, that means no one else would be leaving the roster. And then from a adding perspective, if you're looking to add a player, whoever's in the portal by today is really all you have to choose from.
So, and I've seen some of the new names that have gone in there. Nobody has really blown me away name-wise, but I'm not an evaluator of talent, right? There's a couple of smaller school guys that went in and won that. I think there's even a post. I'm trying to find it here.
North Dakota State wide receiver.
And I saw some of those highlights. The kid can flat out run.
Yeah.
But look, I trust that they're going to figure it out. And if they don't get anybody, which is always a possibility, right? You just got to hope that Noah Thomas shows you for 12 games what we saw in the spring game, that Moose Mohammed can continue to grow as a player and get his looks, and he can make those acrobatic catches, that Cyrus Allen builds upon that first play that we saw with his connection with Connor Wigman, that Ja'Day Walker continues to grow, that the tight ends are a part. There's a lot of questions there, though, right? Like, when you think about the wide receiver room, there are questions because we haven't seen any of those guys for a full season contribute at a high level. Ja'Day Walker's probably the most consistent of the group. Am I wrong?
Yeah, he probably performed pretty consistently for 75% of the season. It took him a while to
He had a little drop
though.
off at one point, but we're still waiting for Moose for 12 games, right? And there are there's circumstances there, but he's got to prove it himself. And Noah Thomas has got to stay healthy. Those guys have a lot of potential, but we've got to get through potential and get through. This is what it is. This is who we are. This is what we're going to do consistently. So, looking at some of the names that have gone in the portal, okay, who's coming? Are you coming for depth? Are you coming to push for a name? That's why Billy was so disappointed with the Jabri Barber injury, because he was one of these guys, man, this guy is showing us stuff and missing out on the other receivers, right? Sam Brown, Kendall Lambert, Smith, that hurts because those guys could have been starters or would have been starters, right? They would have been dogs in that wide receiver room. So it's unfortunate that they weren't able to get one of those guys. There's still time. When does the portal close? What time? Do we know?
I don't know the time. It just says by today. I'm guessing that's like an 11:59 p.m. situation. And I want to talk about
Eli
Mike
Green,
Ateez.
by the way, is the name of the North Dakota State receiver.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to give a shout out to Mike Ateez because I feel like he's kind of forgotten about. Anaya Smith, when I believe Kay was doing an interview with him at the spring game, asked him, like, who's the breakout player for you, someone that's underrated? And he said Mike Ateez. So I think, maybe we should listen to what Anais has to say. Maybe he's a little credible on who he thinks is going to be a good wide receiver.
Hey, look, if we get a big year from Mike Ateez, and by the way, he's shown us some stuff, right? There's no doubt about it. And then I asked that question yesterday, and look, it's too much of an unknown. But Terry Bussey, like, what kind of impact could he potentially have offensively based on the fact that we feel pretty good at cornerback, right? And look, that kid's going to contribute somewhere. If it's special teams, if it's on defense, if it's on offense, we know he's going to contribute. But maybe he shows that he can be that playmaker. I don't expect that to be the case, but what I'm saying is if you have questions about your wide receiver room, there's an option right there.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. When we come back on this show that we call TexAgs Radio, we're going to talk a little Alabama football. Ryan Fowler, host on The Game on 100.9 Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 o'clock. Let's find out what's going on there in Tuscaloosa, get his thoughts on the state of the program, the Kalen DeBoer era, Jalen Milroe. Is he going to get benched? I don't believe that's the case. His name is listed on some Heisman Trophy names out there or some lists out there, but maybe he's not Kalen's guy. We'll ask him that and more next on TexAgs Radio. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Wallow Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline, talk a little Alabama football with our friend Ryan Fowler from the game on 100.9. You can hear him Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 o'clock there in Tuscaloosa. Ryan, what's up, buddy? How you been?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's been 110 days here of trying to cover this new transition, but life is good. It's been a busy time here in Tuscaloosa. I'm sure we'll get into it, but you almost kind of like blink, and 3 months later, you're still trying to adjust. So that's where we're at here in Tuscaloosa.
So I guess that answers part of my question. How different does it feel without Nick Saban being the guy, but feeling his presence, I'm sure, every day?
Yeah, I will say it is a little strange. I mean, listen, when you walk in that building, for football building, you're going, okay, can we get a Nick Saban rant today? Instead, we're getting an explanation. So it's the Nick Saban, that 17 years you get accustomed to doing something and, sounding a different way. Or, I'll give you an example. I had a player that got in a little bit of trouble yesterday. And after 17 years, I've almost got Nick Saban's speech memorized, right? I mean, I know how he's going to handle this. With Kalen DeBoer, I don't know. I don't know exactly, how he's going to address it. So it's a little bit of change, but change is good. From a media perspective, we've hit a home run. We've hit a lottery. You've got Kalen DeBoer and all of his assistant coaches having post-practice media availability where you actually go to a practice and you get every offensive coach. The next practice, you get every defensive coach. You're getting players. That's not always been the case in Tuscaloosa. So from a media perspective, you love it. From doing local radios, Nick Saban never really did too many local radios. He would do a couple of SEC media days if you were part of that lottery. Other than that, Kalen DeBoer has already come on more in 3 months than Nick Saban came on my show in 17 years.
What kind of grace do you think Alabama fans will give Kalen DeBoer, considering it is a new team, it's a new system, it's a new environment? They're used to being a 10-plus win team. They're used to winning national championships, contending for them, getting to the playoffs. If it does go minor south, what kind of grace do they give them in year one?
Yeah, I think they will. Keep in mind, Nick Saban took over a program that was a lot more shape than what Kalen DeBoer's taking over here currently. But I think they will. But I also have tried to explain this, David. In my words, college football's changed. What won 5 years ago would be complete domination here. I think football spreads the talent out. I think now we have more parity than we've ever seen. And so I tried to kind of be cautious of that. Say, listen, college football's changed. I look back at last year's football team. Okay, Alabama, just Alabama. You could take Michigan, the same argument. What wins now, I don't think it would have won 5 years ago. I look at that team that made the semifinals. That was not one of Alabama's better teams. That was probably one of their lesser teams. I don't think that team could go back. I mean, I struggle to beat 1 or 2 years in the 17-year run from Nick Saban. Like, if you match the 2020 team up or the 2016 or the 2015, that team got there. But is that because of their luck, or is this because it's the new college football that we're in? I think it's the latter. I think this is where we're not going to have these dominant runs of college football. We're not going to. The talent is going to be spread out, and I think it's by design. I think this is chaos. Yeah, it looks chaotic, but I think by default, these commissioners and directors of college football, they've got to be excited because there's going to be a lot of teams. And can you imagine when we get to October and November and we start talking about 12-team playoff? I mean, we might as well start with the teams that are actually officially out of it because there'll be so many that'll still be in it.
Talking to Ryan Fowler here on TexAgs Radio. So it's obviously talking season, and that's why I read two different schools of thought. I can read one article that says Jalen Milroe is going to be a Heisman contender. I also read another one that'll say he's not a lock to be your starter all season long. What's your take on it?
You know what? I'm probably the same way. I mean, I could make a case that he could be a guy that would be in New York City, but I could also make a case that he could struggle with an offense that's going to ask him to do a lot more. Is he going to be able to handle that? All we can do is judge from the first 15 days. I think Jalen Milroe had a solid camp. Out of all the quarterbacks, it was probably not the best camp. I think Ty Simpson had a great camp. He put a lot of pressure, and to be honest, I'm a little bit shocked that he's still around. I mean, you got a transfer portal deadline, which is later today. I don't anticipate him going into the portal. I think he's, I broke that story when I found out that he was actually going to be coming back and saying that he wasn't going to go after because, quarterbacks are highly sought after, especially one that is his caliber and showed that much promise in the spring. But I could make the argument both ways. I mean, I hate to just not answer your question, but I could make an argument that he would be in New York City, or I could make argument that he loses a starting job. I mean, I think it's that much variance when you look at Jalen Milroe.
So help us understand how they're going to use him this year, a lot more on his shoulders. And a guy that last year people doubted, and they benched him. And he came back, and he had a spectacular second half of the season.
Yeah, and maybe that was what motivated him. But for his, and we've asked Kalen DeBoer offensively his philosophy, but he always adjusts to the personnel. Now, we got to see it to believe it, but, I go back to Lane Kiffin, a guy that took Blake Sims, a scout team running back, scout team wide receiver, and made him into a quarterback that set an SEC record with Amari Cooper in passing yards. So think about what Lane Kiffin did with Blake Sims. He maximized his strengths, disguised his weaknesses. Okay, what can you do? We know what you can't do, but what can you do? Perfect. I was on a game plan. I wonder if Kalen DeBoer will take this, or if he's just going to throw the entire offense and say, all right, this is our offense. Yeah, you're going to be a mobile quarterback, and you're going to be a part of it. When things break down, we want you to take advantage of that. But, last year we saw a lot of hesitation in Jalen Milroe with running the football. He almost did not want to be known as a running quarterback. And I get it, but God gave you a special ability if he uses it. But if he's one of those that goes into a shell and he doesn't use that skill set, then we're probably not talking about a successful season for Jalen Milroe. I think he's got to use that to make it a threat. And I think if he does that, go Daniels. Jaden Daniels at LSU. It opens up that passing attack. If they can sell that to Jalen Milroe, hey, no, we're not asking you to run, 25, 30 times a game. But if you can show that you're a threat, which everybody in the country knows that you can, then I think that passing attack will open up even more.
What about that offensive line? Guys go to the NFL, some changes there. How do they look?
This is probably the weakness right now on the football team. And it's simply because Caden Proctor left, then he came back, so he's got that left tackle. Interior, they seem to be okay at the guard spots with Jaden Roberts and Tyler Booker. But when you go to the center spot, it's still up in the air because James Brockermeyer just left Alabama. I haven't seen the announcement this morning, but a lot of people expect that he'll go to TCU, and that's where his brother went from Alabama. So he went into the portal, but he got all the work, not all the work, but the majority of the work at first-string center. He was the first center they rolled out of A-Day, working with a first-string quarterback. So you'd assume that throughout, spring training, that he would be the starter. Well, all of a sudden he puts his name in the transfer portal. So now you either got to go and to get to Parker Brailsford, who transferred from UW. We really don't know all the details. We just know that it's non-football related and it's nothing to fault of his own. So I don't know what that really means, but that's the only thing we have to go by. That's what Kalen DeBoer told us, and he said he expects him to be with the team. But with that so much up in the air, their backup center now becomes a true freshman, one of the hardest positions to play, and it's a true freshman. So if something happened and Parker was not able to go, you're very weak at center. Very weak right now at center, unless Parker Brailsford. But we have to trust what Kalen DeBoer said. He said he'll be with us. He'll be with his team. So if he is, then the offensive line can be okay. Still got some questions at tackle spot, even with Caden Proctor coming back. Alabama, go look up the sack production that teams had against the Crimson Tide. I think they were 129 out of 131, 132 teams. I know it changed a little bit. They were one of the worst teams in the country protecting the quarterback. Now, some of that was on Jalen Milroe, holding the ball too long, getting sacked. But that sack production was an absolute embarrassment in Tuscaloosa. That offensive line, if there was an award for the worst offensive line, I know we know the Joe Moore Award, that team deserved it. It was complete disaster on that offensive line last year. Let's see if it gets better. Somewhat, we've seen some steps in spring practice, Penalties have not been as prevalent as they were last year. That's a good thing. But still, this offensive line's got to show me something. And I'm talking about in live action where the quarterback's not wearing a, no contact black jersey.
Talking to Ryan Fowler here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I'm not sensing a lot of bad feelings when it comes to the defensive backfield. Let's talk a little bit about that because it's completely different. But Alabama was able to get a bunch of 5 stars through the portal, through recruiting, obviously. How does the secondary look?
Young. Like I said, but I think this is the new college football. I think you're going to have to play players earlier. You're probably going to have to count on a couple true freshmen back there. You did last year. He ended up being the team tackle leader. His name is Caleb Down. So you think about this entire secondary. Malachi Moore is going to be key, and in this 4-2-5 defense, in this attack defense, it's one of those situations where I think when just the amount of production that safety is going to get. I think my wife's got a package being delivered. It's always happening during radio interviews. I apologize for that.
All good.
I don't know if anybody else can. If anybody else can relate, I certainly can. It is anyway. The package delivery guy knows me by name, I guess. But yeah, when you take a look at the secondary, they're okay at safety. They're not okay at corner. Corner is a weakness because you just saw it. You saw it on the NFL draft. Terry Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry, both of your corners, your lockdown guys, are now in the National Football League. So when you kind of look at these two guys, that's going to be a big replacement, and it will be in Tuscaloosa. And now you better have a lot of corners because everybody throws the football all over the field. So defensive back, not going to be a strength for Alabama. Offensive line, probably number one. Second biggest concern, defensive back, secondary as a whole in Tuscaloosa. Going to be a lot of growing pains with that unit.
I'm not sure how much you got to see of Des Ricks at practice when he was at Alabama. A&M picks him up. He seems to have a bright future. Any memories or any thoughts on Des Ricks?
Are you just Nick Saban had us blocked out of practice for so long? It's really a challenge to get any information, coming out of there. A little bit different here. So if you were asking about a player that was transferred in 2025, we actually go to practice. Breaking news in Tuscaloosa. I mean, and we get more than 3-minute stretching one-on-one periods too. I mean, like I said, we get the media lottery over here. We get to stay for, I think we stayed 45 minutes one day and 35 the next. So it's, getting a lot of media access here in Tuscaloosa. So I'm sorry, I can't add anything to it.
All good. So there's concern there in Alabama with the offensive line. Somewhat concerned with the defensive backs. What about the wide receiver room that lost some guys too?
Up Jeremy Bernard. You also picked up Josh Cuevas, tight end from UW. That's going to be a big part of the offense. But you're okay wide receiver wise. I think you're going to be just fine with that unit. I think when you look at the newcomer, Ryan Williams, would have been the number one player in 2025. He reclassified to a 2024. Know the name's Ryan Williams. Not saying that he's going to be, Julio Jones day number one, but there's a lot of people that say that he'll have that type of access or instant, immediate availability when you look at Ryan Williams. So keep a name on Ryan Williams. He's a reclassification young man, but I saw him in high school. He won Mr. Football twice. He would have won it a third time if he'd have chose to come back and do another year, which has never been done in Alabama high school history. Ryan Williams, keep an eye on him, but Jeremy Bernard is probably the leader right now. He's the guy that's really stepped up into a big role. Transfer from UW, probably is the number one guy. We saw that quickly. I think the first play of the game was about a 55-yard strike from Jalen Milroe right down the middle of the field. Had to go up and get it a little bit, but still a big game. Jeremy Bernard making his presence known in Tuscaloosa quickly.
And educate the audience on Justice Haynes, a back who potentially could have a big season.
I think Alabama's going to be a lot better at the running back spot, too. They had more role players there with Roydell Williams, had some ability. Jace McClellan had some ability. But if you take a look at Jam Miller and Justice Haynes, It's going to be a 1-2 punch. That may be what because the offensive line as a whole in run blocking is much better than pass pro. So they're much better at leaning on people. So something tells me they're going to have to lean on those backs until this offensive line kind of grows up and continues to gel. I think you may lean on Justice Haynes, which will probably see his production soar. I think the Alabama. I'm not saying they're going to get back to rushing the football, but I think it's going to be a big part of this offense.
Hey, Ryan, let's close out with this. Just looking at the schedule, it's an SEC schedule, obviously. You got Georgia on there. You've got on the road at Tennessee. You host Missouri. LSU is always a tough game in Baton Rouge. What is a realistic outcome for this season? What do you think is potential for this team?
Oh, I think 12-0. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
I was letting it marinate, Ryan.
No, I mean, you do look. I mean, does anybody else look at the same way if they view college football different? I mean, it just what wins now, it's like everybody's second string. If you're a second string player and you're at Texas A&M, are you going to be patient or are you going to hit the portal?
Right.
That's what kids do now. I mean, so you're going to have to play younger players. And so we're still accustomed to 5 years ago, right? You play young freshmen, you're going to end up getting beat. And so now we're having to see these guys make quicker impact, which, I'm sure creates interest for the game. But overall, I think Alabama, a successful season in Tuscaloosa under Kalen DeBoer would be making the playoffs. Be a part of the 12-team playoff. And I think that's going to become the new barometer for a lot of these coaches because there are 12 of them that are going to stand up and say, we had success. Even though we did not hoist up the trophy at the end of the season, we made the college football playoffs. I think that will be the new success barometer for a lot of these programs. I think if Alabama can make the college football playoffs, be one of the 12 teams, and beat somebody, like let's say Georgia coming to town. What if you could pull off an upset against Georgia? Probably not going to happen. September the 28th here. We're still going to be learning a lot about this offense and a lot of growing pains to be involved, but it is here. And if Alabama, I know what it would be from the reaction of Georgia fans. I mean, it'd be crazy to think if Alabama could beat them in year number one with Kalen DeBoer. Because Alabama's got a great record against Georgia.
Ryan, we got to drop it right there, man. We're up against a hard break, my friend. Hey,
no problem.
Sorry about that, man. Thanks so much. You were great. We'll talk to you here soon, and I'll definitely see you at SEC Media Days.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Ryan Fowler there on the show. We've got to hit a quick break. We'll be back. Hey, everybody. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Gilles Roller Insurance Studio. Time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We'll hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's, who have been in Aggie land since 1984 with your favorite pizza and those pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. Luke Evangelist, Angry Elephant News and Social Center. You had something for us.
Yes, real quick. Aggie softball, we mentioned one game back of first place in the SEC. The team behind them by one game is Florida, who they're going to play this weekend. Tennessee, the team one game ahead of them, has Kentucky, and they play Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So A&M starts on Friday. If Tennessee wins their first two games, then they clinch the SEC. But if they're able to lose one of them and A&M sweeps Florida, then A&M will win the SEC. And I want to point out that since getting swept by LSU, Texas A&M is 11-2, and those two losses were to Kentucky and Alabama by a combined 3 runs, and they have the longest win streak in the SEC at 8 games right now.
Good stuff there, Luke. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for TexAgs Radio here on a Tuesday. My thanks to all of our great guests. We had a bunch of them. John Scheschuk, Ryan Fowler there, breaking down Bama. We had Gerrod Chadwell, Tom Hart. We had Chris Burke. We had Charean Williams, and, of course, Olin Buchanan. Tomorrow on the program, Jason Howell going to be doing Recruiting Country. Looking forward to chatting with him. John Harris, as always. That and more. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you mañana.